Thank you very much, and welcome to the Select Board meeting of Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. We have 4 Select Board members present. David Modell is not yet present and is not online. Let me just run through the agenda. We're going to open with community input as usual, followed by a meeting with Representative Cataldo, who is here with us tonight. Then appointments. Then we're going to discuss item 4, approval of loan documents for the fire station renovation project design. Then we have a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission, and members of LSC may also be present, but they are not having, they did not post a meeting, so that will not be a joint meeting for the LSC. 9 o'clock, item 6 is discussion of the Proctor Road Tower cellular lease. Item 7 is a policy discussion on our volunteer code of conduct, followed by the TA report, review of warrants and minutes, cemetery deeds, liaison reports, and we'll close with community input. So with that, let me open it up to community input. Does anyone in the room have any community input they want to provide? Seeing none, I'll ask online. Does anyone online have any community input? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to meet with Representative Cataldo. If you want to step up to the mic, welcome. Thank you for coming. We always appreciate it when you visit us here in Carlisle and give us the chance to ask you some questions and have a discussion about matters related to Carlisle, the state, and all other matters of governance. I know in advance our TA had asked us to provide questions for Representative Cataldo, which we had sent to Ryan, and I believe he has shared with you.
Yes.
I don't know if, Ryan, do we just want to open with some of those questions, or how do we want to proceed with that?
I think you're prepared for that, right?
I'd be happy to run through some
Yeah.
responses to the questions, and you're obviously welcome to interrupt me, or we can do questions at the end, however you'd like to do it. But Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, board, thank you so much for having me. I always love coming here. It's my first time with you, Christine, and thanks so much again for giving me the opportunity. And I just want to make sure that members of the public know that this isn't the only time that we communicate. The members of the board and especially the town administrator are so good about communicating to me, making sure that I'm aware of what the town's needs are and how I can be helpful. So thank you so much for doing that with such frequency and effectiveness. And I also just want to note a note of thanks for your service. I know that this is a hard time to work in municipal government, both fiscally, and we're going to be talking about that, as well as politically. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. So I'm just going to go down the list of the questions or issues that you posed to me. And as I said, feel free to interrupt. So there was a question about Prop 2.5. Do I see or predict any movement on Prop 2.5 within the legislature? As you know, Prop 2.5 was a statewide ballot measure. It passed in 1980. Before I was born. It's been a long time, and things have changed. Inflation has gone up very significantly, which is significant as it concerns 2.5. And 44%, only 44% of the municipalities in the Commonwealth thus far have even had overrides. So it's been fairly infrequent since it was passed. Yeah, since 2010. Since 2010. So it's been fairly infrequent. My temperature, if this is responsive to the question, my gauge of where the legislature is, where colleagues are, where people are in general, is that it's unlikely that we're going to see significant change to that ballot measure. I think that, and I've said this to you before, I've said this to the other select boards that I've appeared before, I think that when things become an MMA priority in particular, that really elevates the issue. And so, we've looked at the MMA priorities. They have some suggestions about maybe doing phase-ins of increased, like going above 2.5. I think that's a thoughtful approach. I'd like to see next session some, legislation and some serious kind of political effort lobbying by the MMA around that. To really elevate that, because I think it's time to have that conversation. In particular, for our smaller communities, the costs of an override are really, really significant, and for the larger ones, too. They're politically costly, they can be financially costly, and it's a lot of effort. So as we're in this situation, and to me, that should be tied in some sense to inflation. The best argument for having some kind of change at 2.5, I think, is for these years when, and successive years in particular, when we're above 2.5% inflation. It's not the only argument, but I think it's one of them. So, if there's something that the board itself, the people of Carlisle through the board want to see be a priority, please do communicate that. To me, this was posed in the nature of a question, and that will obviously, very significantly affect my thinking.
But
Yeah.
Whether, you said only 44% of the towns had an override, which some towns probably had multiple, but do we have access to any statistics about how close towns are coming to the levy limit? Because that's really if what you say is true, which I think it kind of is, then more towns, and maybe Ryan, you know this in your extracurricular job, a lot of towns must be getting close to where they're getting in trouble. Haven't historically, because really high inflation's only been a thing like for 2 or 3 years, but prolonged, it's not immediate, like you shouldn't be that close that 1 year is gonna tip you over, but many years of higher inflation is what's gonna drive these towns to have to confront that. That would be probably a more compelling statistic, I would say.
I think that probably the MMA has that right at their fingertips, and I'm happy to go and try to get that information and get back to you all. The Municipal Empowerment Act is something that the governor has filed now successive sessions, and it's with the Committee on Revenue right now. And so I expect that there's going to be a report on that. I don't serve on that committee, but my assumption for the bills so the rules in the legislature are a little bit different this year. With the bills that have not been reported out or sent to study so far, we've basically been looking at February or March, for decisions on those. So that's a discussion that's happening right now. I think it's good that it's going to happen right in conjunction with our fiscal year budget, because those are obviously related conversations. There were a couple of questions about federal immigration enforcement and ICE, and obviously this is a big topic of conversation. I'm sure you're getting asked about it. So you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's my understanding that the Carlisle Police Department has had some communication about their policies on this, and policy of basically non-collaboration, or at least in the affirmative sense. I did want to point out, if you didn't already know, that Concord several years ago did a bylaw. It's a welcoming communities bylaw, but it basically put as a bylaw a policy for the Concord Police Department to follow as it concerns communication and collaboration with federal immigration enforcement. And more recently, and it's been widely reported, so I'm not breaking news here, there has been adherence, and not saying there wasn't before, but there has been reported adherence to that policy. And I just want to get specific for a moment in terms of my understanding, to the extent it's helpful for your constituents and our shared constituents. So when a person, in many cases in our communities in this district, it's a motorist, gets pulled over, and might be for a traffic violation, a headlight, something like that, something a police officer would pull somebody over for. And there's some kind of like arrest warrant for that person. It might be for a serious crime, might be for a fairly minor crime. At that point, consistent with procedure, the police officer would typically detain that person, not having anything to do with immigration enforcement. But when an arrest is made, it pings the federal agencies, right? And so ICE might see that and say, oh, that person, separate from the traffic or the domestic issue or whatever they're being detained for, has an immigration detainer. At which point, in the case at least once, I think at least twice, actually in Concord recently, there was a call made from the federal enforcement agent to the Concord Police Department with an inquiry about this person, saying, we want you to hold this person so that we can come and get them. And there was basically a non-substantive response by the police department consistent with the bylaw, the Concord's bylaw. And at least one of those cases, the immigration agent came anyway and waited outside of the police station. And in one of those cases, they ended up also detaining for alleged immigration violation the person who came and picked up the person. So, but I point you to that because Concord is not the only community that currently has on its books and its bylaws one of these kind of provisions giving specific instructions for the police officers in the town on how to respond and act or not respond. I believe Lexington also has one, and I'm sure a Google search could find many others. There's also a question here, an issue raised about civil protest. This may be something that's on the mind of folks in Carlisle. I don't have much guidance for that. I think it's something that certainly folks would want to communicate with the police department to make sure that there are areas set up, especially when somebody applies for a permit or something like that. I will say that, and I want to just take a second to compliment our area police departments, NEMLEC, which I know you've had some recent work with NEMLEC, and the state police have been just really, I think, excellent, very professional, very steadfast in their work to ensure that protests that are peaceful, large and small, can happen in a manner that is not disruptive and that is reflective of the First Amendment civil liberties that we have here in the United States. So there's been recently there have been some large protests in our surrounding area, and those have gone off quite well. So I always try to thank those police officers and state police officers, local police officers who have been doing that work to make sure that we can exercise our rights.
Simon,
yes.
can I stop you there? So those are my questions, and I want to circle back. So on the Carlisle police guidance, can you, Ryan, not tonight, but can you shed light? Is there a formal position that Carlisle PD has taken on?
Yeah, I looked it up, assuming that might be asked. So the Carlisle Police Department will neither participate in nor obstruct non-criminal ICE federal
So
immigration
it's sort
enforcement.
of hands away. So my question then gets back to you, Simon, not you personally, but, so if ICE or some other arm of the federal government were to come in and grab somebody and do all the kind of, hopefully a low probability event for here, but we're watching it all over, right? So this happens and the police are like, it's feds, I can't do anything. We're elected officials of the town, right? We're effectively the mayor of the town. What is our role in that? Do we just stand by and say, oops, sorry, you do what you want? They're our citizens. I feel like we have a moral, if not a legal, obligation to sort of stand up for them. So, but do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, David, do you want to be a little bit more specific so I can just kind of wrap my head around what you have in mind? I think, first of all, it's not to be taken for granted, right? We've a long history of this country of state,
Right.
local, and federal collaboration, right? You have a police department here in Concord who, based on what the town administrator has just said, is that we are going to depart from that long tradition. That's not to be glossed over, right? I will tell you, I have constituents emailing me every day, including today, multiple times a day, saying that the state should do something to basically create violence against the federal law enforcement agents who are coming in. Right, so I take it that's not what you're saying, but I just want to be clear that
I'm saying
that
defensively,
I'm not.
so,
Yeah.
again, I don't want to extrapolate too much out of Minneapolis, but, certainly the mayor and the other officials of the city are being pretty vocal.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, at the end of the day, much we can do against the federal law enforcement, really. But maybe we have to think about it ourselves.
Well, just publicly.
Yeah, what is it we would say? Would we intervene? Would we go down to court and, I don't know, but I'm not getting a lot of prescriptive action from the Carlisle PD. Are there does Concord Select Board have, you represent enough towns and you're in the mix. Maybe you don't know tonight, but I would like to have an understanding of what other select boards are saying about what they feel their responsibility is.
So I want to send you what Concord has done, and we can
Okay.
send along a couple of other
Okay.
examples. I was at a meeting in Acton, which I also represent,
Right.
where they had taken some, some formal but verbal steps
Yeah.
to make statements. And that might be responsive in terms of what other municipalities are doing. On the state level, we have recently, and I think we will again, and I'm leading one component of this in the legislature, the funding of civil legal aid. And in particular, last fiscal year budget, for the first time, we funded civil immigrant legal assistance for
As a
the folks who
town.
need it.
The town funded.
The state did. The state did. We also have, and we're actually, tomorrow is the walk to the Hill. There are a number of, I think Concord and Carlisle lawyers who are going to that. Hundreds and hundreds of lawyers come to the State House and advocate for civil
That's
legal
every day
aid.
at the State House.
Those are lobbyists. I'm the House sponsor of that, one of the House sponsors of that budget amendment. So that's something that, we're doing on the state level, and I think that's an important component of protecting people's rights.
Okay, and then lastly, going back to the protest, my question was less about, I mean, yes, if they're planning a protest here, I presume they should go to Carlisle PD and get a permit or whatever you do to have civil disobedience, right? But, I mean, I did attend a pretty interesting ACLU event here at our church at the First Religious FRS. Were you there? Did you have that
I
one?
did not.
There's a guy, he's some, I guess, professional agitator, I don't know, but he gave some pretty good guidelines, and that's people going, and we know lots of people who go downtown or wherever, and say they get in trouble. I mean, they're adults and they should be on their own recognizance, but let's say they get in trouble. Like, do we do anything when people get in trouble? Do we go down and try to bail them out or figure it out? I mean, I don't know what responsibility do we, again, maybe it's more this direction, but what responsibility do we have those citizens? They're acting on their own cognizance. It wasn't here in town. I just don't know. I just think we ought to give some thought to that, just in case. So, appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Just so you know, I have not heard of towns doing that
Yeah.
and extending that to its residents.
Right.
Not to say you should or shouldn't,
Or
but
should we give them
uh,
guidance? I mean,
certainly,
just
if I
follow some
hear of
guidance,
that,
like,
yeah, I'll let
don't
you know.
go, and if you do go, don't bring your cell phone. I mean, there's all kinds of things the guy was saying. Like, don't bring your kids. I mean, that was one of the things. Like, people bring their kids to these, like, stupid. Like, but anyway. Okay. Thank you.
The next one's probably the hardest question to ask to answer on my list, which is the property tax increases that are largely driven in Carlisle, as they are in many towns by municipal buildings. There is a bill which I support to create a municipal building authority similar to the MSBA. And our surrounding communities have seen some of that money from the MSBA. And you're probably familiar with the technicalities that go into applying for that and receiving those funds. If there is a municipal building authority that is created, it will need to be funded by the legislature, and there will be a process, of course. But I think that, in particular, those smaller communities where, like here, a very, very substantial portion of the town's budget, separate from the school side, are dedicated towards those buildings. I think that is a prudent measure. Kind of on local aid more broadly, I think that we saw a very significant increase from 200 million to 300 million in Chapter 90 aid last year. That's paid for partially by the Fair Share Amendment. Governor Healy just filed a $1.2 billion bond bill. If there are specific transportation or road related projects that you would like to see bonded out in that bill, it's important for me to know that over the next, I would say, month or so would be good. And so that I can try to get earmarks funds for the bond bill. Questions on that one?
You said road and transportation, so would that include infrastructure?
Yes.
Like culverts and
Yes.
things?
Yes. Culverts.
About
Absolutely.
No.
Simon, going back to the Municipal Building Authority, what's your sense of its, what kind of support there is and when it's likely to move?
It's a fairly new idea. I think it was filed for the first time last session. I have not heard a lot about it. But, I think it'll be more clear over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks as things really kind of move this session, where we are on that.
And Ryan, I should probably have asked you this too. Is there any sense of the smaller towns kind of working together to lobby for this, or at least put pressure on their state reps and senators?
I have not heard of that specifically with respect to the municipal building idea, but I think it would be a great idea.
Yeah, and nothing's happening through MMA, right?
Through I'm the president of the Small Town Administrators, it is one of our top legislative priorities.
This is.
So
Okay.
the number one, it's cyclical. I mean, it's a cycle. You defer buildings, then the buildings cost more, and you don't have the ability to fund them because it's all through ballots and overrides. And as you know, we don't pass overrides, so the problem just keeps getting moved. And without any assistance, small towns are going to continue to focus on operational overrides for school and town costs, and not on infrastructure. It's just going to get worse.
So infrastructure's aging across the Commonwealth.
Oh, yeah.
generally.
So Carlisle's story with its buildings is every small town's story.
Well, Carlisle, but what Carlisle seems to do is let it get to a certain amount of decrepitude, and then we spend a bunch of money and then kind of repeat the cycle. But at least we rejuvenate the physical plant. But there's gotta be towns that just, I'm sorry, that's it.
If they even have a facility at all.
Yeah.
That actually, the town administrator's point just now is probably a good time to note. He and I meet every year, usually after this meeting. And I think he probably would have told me about that in the meeting that we do every year after this meeting. And one of the things we talk about are the legislative priorities for the small towns, and also, of course, earmarks and funding priorities, which we'll get to in a minute. And Carlisle, I think, is lucky that it has somebody who's the head of that entity here on the town staff. The next question is, what's the most effective way to keep Carlisle residents apprised of your projects and communicate their support to House leadership? Thank you so much for asking the question. So we've had very vigorous and well-attended constituent office hours, both here. Thank you for hosting me here. And then more recently, we've done a couple at the library down the street, which has been great. So folks, if they can, come to my office hours. We advertise them in the Mosquito. Thank you to the Mosquito for doing that. I always advertise them on my social media, and I say everything I'm doing on my social media. And I have a constituent newsletter, which you can sign up for at repcataldo.com. It's not a political newsletter, it's a constituent newsletter. So feel free to sign up for updates on that. I try to really be responsive to the feedback of what people want to see in those newsletters. So love to have folks read those and let me know what else they would like in them. Also, you can just email me at simon.cataldo@mahouse.gov. You can call me. I don't have my office number memorized, but it's very easy to find online on the legislature's website. So any of those ways, my legislative aide is Anna O'Sullivan. She will be in touch with you, or I will be in touch with you directly. I love it when people leave their phone numbers. It's sometimes a lot, because I'm always on the go, it's sometimes a lot easier for me to just call you than be in front of a laptop, which I find myself in front of a laptop less and less frequently these days. So I'm happy to email you back if I don't have a phone number, but if you leave me a number, I'll probably call you. So in the second part of that question, though, is, and let me just say on social media, on Instagram and Facebook in particular, I post multiple times a week to let folks know what I'm working on, and sometimes there's information there like just a couple days ago, what is the Massachusetts Emergency Management Office saying about what you can do for safety during a big snowstorm? So I try to put information out like that. In terms of communicating support to House leadership, so when it's in the form of a major budget item or a piece of legislation, yes, that is how I decide what I am going to communicate to House leadership. It's from hearing from you. So that's how those decisions are made. And so I love when people email me, and when I speak with House leadership, which is more and more frequently, the ability to say my constituents are really on me about this is something that makes a difference to them. I know for sure. Speaking with House leadership and legislative items, there was a question about literacy. My top priority piece of legislation that I filed this session passed 155-0 in the House. It was to require evidence-based literacy instruction in K through 3 in Massachusetts. Only 40% of Massachusetts third graders read at grade level right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely unacceptable. And that is not solely due to, but in significant part due to some outdated methods of non-phonics-based reading instruction that have persisted, unfortunately. And so that is actually going before the Senate on Thursday this week. So really excited about that. I think it'll be at the governor's desk soon. But there was a question about that, and related to that, the library and funding for the library renovation. So just to back up a couple of years, the state funded through the Mass Cultural Council a $200,000 grant in fiscal year 23 for the library, and that was a matching program. So thanks again to all the Carlisle residents and friends who supported that and made sure that that grant reached its highest possible level. I had some discussion with members of the community about doing an earmark last year. We decided not to do it because there were some other, in particular, one Carlisle-related thing that really needed the state's urgent support, which was DCR fixing the parking lot of the cross-country ski area at Great Brook, which we did get done, and that ended up being the largest earmark that I did for any of the communities last year. But this year it's kind of tabula rasa on the earmark conversation. So really, I just need to hear from you. A lot of times those conversations get funneled through Ryan. I don't only need to hear from Ryan, but Ryan and I will be speaking soon. So feel free to kind of speak through him or communicate with me directly. I think, look, it's going to be a tough fiscal year. We had 9 C cuts a couple years ago, where a lot of the earmarks got cut in half. I will do one for Carlisle, at least one for Carlisle. So I just need to know, what the community wants to see. And if it's the library, I'd be thrilled to support the library. And if it's something else, that's perfectly fine with me.
Excuse me, just to follow up, Christine, do you know, has the library made that formal request to you? No.
They raised their hand last year, but it didn't prevail. We lost out to the Great Brook Farm.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But in terms of this year,
We would like to raise it
the
again.
trustees, though, have not formally.
They have not, no. I mean, we've talked about it, and then we have a few measures kind of that we're still exploring, but probably all of them will be implemented because we're kind of in the last stages of fundraising. And, the costs just keep outpacing the fundraising.
Mhm.
So,
But you're probably looking for some agreement among us, right, through Ryan or directly about what we think our top earmarks should be, requests should be, right?
And I think you probably all already know this, but if not for you, for the public. So an earmark has to be spent in that fiscal year. So if it's the library project, for example, it would have to be actually paid to whoever is doing the work before the end of the fiscal year, which would be in June of 2027.
okay.
So June of 27, not this June.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah, so it'd get approved this fiscal year, but then has to be spent in the next fiscal year.
Yeah, it will be
Okay.
signed into law in August of this summer, 2026, and then it has to be spent by June.
Okay,
There is a question about online fraud. One of the committees that I serve on is the Financial Services Committee. There has been a lot of cryptocurrency fraud, specifically geared towards seniors, but geared toward a lot of people. We advanced a bill to deal with cryptocurrency fraud at these cryptocurrency ATMs that you may see around our area, all across Massachusetts. Folks are being called by scammers. They are being kept on the phone told to go to one of these to make a transfer, and they're losing, all of their money. So it's really, really sad. We had a ton of people come testify, people who have been victims, people in law enforcement, sheriffs who came and testified about all these horrible situations. That's one kind of small part of it. There are a lot of resources on the Attorney General's office about consumer protection, fraud. Encourage people to seek those out. And I'm sorry for the genesis of this question. I'm sure that there are more than one resident of Carlisle that's been victimized by this recently. There are also, if you're on social media and you follow kind of government pages, like with the RMV in particular, one of the more recent, very frequent scams is that you will get a text message from the RMV. Do not click on that. The RMV doesn't text you. And so just, for folks to be aware of, these text scams that come in, these people that call, they ask your social security number, all that stuff, that's, typically not legitimate. There was a question about ferns, our beloved ferns. So
Good update. Are you guys on the mailing list?
No.
There's
Yeah.
a very long, comprehensive update that they sent out, which was pretty impressive.
Are they trying to go forward?
They are.
Yeah.
They actually exercise their options to buy. I mean, so the email is structured, it's like hurdle this, hurdle, like 47 hurdles, all of which sound very expensive. And at the end of it, they say, so we're exercising our options to buy. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Breaking good news. As it concerns the Mass DEP, we reached out to them on Thursday, and if it would be helpful to kind of collaborate on a letter of support from me, I'm glad to get the help of the rest of the legislative delegation, which is one other person, Senator Barrett. Have whatever I can do. I don't have the authority to fast track an approval process or change regulations or anything like that, but sometimes it can help for the state rep. So just tell me the direction to go, and I'll go in that direction. But I have reached out and told them that this is a priority. It's important for the community, and we really want to see things move forward as quickly as is responsible.
Doubling of our retail.
Yeah.
And yeah, anything that you can do to like emphasize that we have no retail presence in town almost. This is hugely important to many different, middle schoolers, bicyclists, the mom who's caught with no milk on a Saturday morning at 6 a.m. I mean, it happens. Everyone uses ferns a little bit here and there. So, yeah.
I also reached out and just personally and said if they have any questions about anything related to the town or the processes, to please reach out, and we'll offer our guidance as much as we can, because it is important to our community.
Yeah.
But it was a really great update they
It
sent.
was very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And who sent that?
The prospective owners.
Okay.
They have a sign on the front. If you drive by, it's a sign up for a mailing list, and they
Okay.
send out updates.
Great.
Yeah, I'd like to see.
The next is home rule petitions. So there's a pending home rule petition relative to the town administrator's appointment authority. I think you guys are going to be working on that later this meeting. That's H4414. So that has been ordered to third reading, which is the last level in the House. The committee needed the certified votes, so we sorted through that just a few days ago, and I think that will be moving soon. The last session, we did an act authorizing the town of Carlisle to establish a means-tested senior citizen property tax exemption, and that was passed and signed into law of December of 2024. I think that is it in terms of your questions, but if I did miss something, there was a question about this, it's not on my list, but I know there was a question about the State Commission on Combating Anti-Semitism, which concluded its work on November 30th of 2025, and the question was basically how have communities across the state been responding. So we did something, the commission lasted a year, and we did something very atypical for commissions, which is that we released a preliminary report on K through 12 education, which I think was the focus of the question, in August, so prior to the start of the school year. And what we saw was actually pretty incredible. We saw rapid adherence by many, many communities across the Commonwealth in a few specific areas that I think were real points of emphasis for the special commission. So one had to do with the way that communication happens after an incident of anti-Semitism or any type of racism, discrimination, things like that, from school leadership to the members of the community. What kind of information goes into that communication? When does that happen? And what kind of resources are shared? And we're seeing major improvements in that level, on that level. And we get very prescriptive in the special commission report, which is 65 pages, but we include also links to letters that we think are, reflective of what the recommendations are. So big in terms of communication. Also in terms of the existence and the publication of the procedures that school districts follow when there is a reported incident of hate, whether it's anti-Semitism or anything else. Over 80% of the recommendations are not solely about anti-Semitism. And so we are seeing major changes. The Concord Carlisle Regional School District has completely redone its procedures and the way those are communicated and posted online, so that if your kid comes home, and many folks in our communities have been in this situation, the kid comes home and they tell you something, and you're the parent, you're thinking, okay, what do I do? Who do I talk to? I think in many school districts around the Commonwealth, that has not been clear in prior years, and we're seeing a lot of movement on that. Here's who you call, here's how the process plays out, these are the whistleblower protections or the reporter's protections, things like that. One of the main issues we saw is that in 2020, 2021, kind of the George Floyd era, a lot of school districts and institutions generally in the Commonwealth kind of built up, whether you want to call it DEI, anti-discrimination, like frameworks, policies, procedures, including many districts that had a history of repeated anti-Semitic incidents. And for some reason, those frameworks and trainings did not have anything about anti-Semitism in them. Whether you want to call that a feature or a bug, I think it's a hard question to answer. But in any event, those were absent. And so what we continue to see is like swastika on the chalkboard, just teacher erases it, moves on, right? Or like kid says Heil Hitler, just it gets ignored, right? So we're seeing a lot more, and we recommend training about like how do you deal with that issue in particular. That issue has its own history, things like that. Those are just a few examples. So the short answer, and it wasn't a short answer, is that we're seeing a lot of really positive changes in adherence with the recommendations. We've seen a ton of political support as well. So the governor endorsed the report and then appointed the lieutenant governor, Kim Driscoll, to basically quarterback the changes, many of which have to do with what DESE does, but also the Department of Higher Ed and some other agencies, state law enforcement. And the report was endorsed by both of our U.S. senators, our congresswoman, and the Senate President and House Speaker. So I think that it's possible we'll see some legislative action on that as well, but we're already seeing changes as a result of the report.
Good.
And specifically at Concord Carlisle High School, I know you participated in the public discussion this summer. Since that time, have you seen the positive changes you were describing at the school particularly?
Yeah, and I'll get real specific about it. I mean, because I think it goes farther than just the anti-Semitism issue. So there was obviously like tragedy happening in the spring. There was a lot going on. There was a swastika on the skate park at Concord Carlisle High School, right? It wasn't reported to the broader community. It was painted over. It wasn't reported to the police. And in fact, a reporter approached the police chief of Concord about a month or two later and asked about it, and the police chief didn't know about it, right? Because it had not been reported. So, and then there was a letter. There was a lot of people upset. You saw a grassroots group was created out of that. The fact that so many people were upset, which has been very robust in the community. Fast forward to the very first day of school at the high school at CCHS this fall, a swastika is found in the bathroom. Before the end of the school day, the superintendent had written and distributed a letter to the entire school community, which had every best practice thing that you could have, including resources of how to talk to your child about this, commending the person who came forward, putting out and showing online how the process would go from there. And they've also been working, I'm not sure if it was added to since then, on kind of what you see on the landing page for that part of the school district's website, the regional school district. So there have been, I think, a lot of positive changes. There's also the first Jewish Student Union was created and is active at the high school as well. And I believe one of the co-chairs of that is a Carlisle resident, actually possibly both of them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great.
Good.
Can I just make, so,
Please.
I'm gonna show you this math when we have the meeting that you
Yeah.
referenced, but
Great.
Lexington is building a $660 million school, very, very famous in this area. The impact on the average tax bill at its peak for that project is $1,700. The $35 million that Carlisle is spending on its buildings, the average impact is $1,300. And if you add the roads and culverts that Carlisle is trying to address in the backlog, it's $1,700 per resident. So the deferred maintenance that this small town is facing, even though the numbers aren't as glamorous, are the same as what Lexington is proposing, with a similar median household income and a similar average tax bill. So the challenges in Carlisle are equivalent, just not as flashy.
They're flashy to us. Thank you.
That's where I would put earmarks
Okay.
if I was a resident.
Okay.
But is it politically tenable to give earmarks to the rich towns? I mean, those are rich towns, right? I would think that the poor towns in the west are like, hey, I can't even keep the heat on in my building, and you're giving these guys all this money to build another Taj Mahal.
It's politically tenable to me, and I've done it for the last 3 years and intend to do it for a fourth year.
All right. Great.
Well, thank you very much. I know we're a
Appreciate
bit
the
beyond our
service,
allotted time, but I appreciate you spending
So
some
one
extra
last
time with us.
question.
No?
It was
Okay.
16, it was 16 degrees as I drove in, and you're wearing a blazer and a sweater. So I have two questions. What temperature does it need to be for you to wear a coat? And what temperature does it need to be where you just kind of walk in with just like a sweater? or a shirt?
Well, I'll respond to that with a non-response. I was at Carlisle School for futsal on Saturday,
Yeah.
and it was the coldest day that I can remember.
Yeah.
And I still went outside to make phone calls. So, but I was wearing more clothes.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
come home to
Thank
your
you so
boys.
much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate
All right,
it.
take care.
Thank you. I think in the interest of time in the agenda, I think we'll push appointments to a little bit later this evening and go directly to the approval of loan documents, which is scheduled for 7:45. And I see Sandy is on the line. So let's just pick that up. And again, we'll do appointments later in the evening, depending on the timing of the other items. So where do we want to, with regard to the approval of loan documents?
So this is the 1.4 million approved by Carlisle town meeting voters and ballot voters. Sandy put this out to bid so that we can get the money in order to pay for this design service that's ongoing currently. And she's here to tell you how that went and to describe to you what she's asking you to approve on behalf of the town and to sign this evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Sandy.
Hi. So we put the 1.4 million out to bid, and we received only one bid from Unibank for savings for 3.5% for 1 year for the duration of this loan. So we had to go with it. And the documents are there for you to sign. There are 3 places where you would need to sign. And that's about it, you know.
So when we did the projection for this, we conservatively estimated the interest rate to be 4.5%. So this is 1% lower than we thought, which is always good news.
Good.
About 140,000 over the course of the loan. We're hoping this gets rolled into a larger construction project, but for right now, we just have to pay for the approved design costs.
So if we do move forward with the project and that funding is approved, this would ultimately get rolled into that.
In a permanent borrow.
Yeah, okay. But we need to do this now because we've approved the 1.4.
And cash flow. So as the bills come in, we're using these funds to pay them. And design project should be done in time for annual town meeting, which is your goal. So we're spending this 1.4 million relatively fast for us.
Yeah. All right, well, I move to approve the motions titled Vote of the Select Board and dated January 27th, 2026, as presented in the packet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or deliberation? All right. Seeing none, let's just do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes, so we will just sign this, and everyone must sign in 3 places.
All of you have to sign and then place those documents back in the sparkly folder for Gretchen.
And return the folder to Gretchen.
Yes. Any of you who have purchased a home, Sandy has to do this every time we borrow. It's her job, but it's also a lot of work and extremely tedious, so thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you, Sandy.
Well, thank you.
Just reading through all the documents in the packet, I'm thinking, oh, geez, this is a
It was
lot.
very
There's a lot.
comprehensive.
Yes, yeah, all right.
Great. So that was quick. So now we can go back to appointments, I think, because we still have 10 minutes before we're scheduled to start the discussion with, a joint meeting with CONSCOM and discussion with the LSC. So, going back to appointments, first, we have a couple of items. Carrying over from last week, we had discussed with regard to the DPW building project, to amend the charter to add a seat or change a seat to a FinCom representative and to appoint Mark Bernstein to that seat contingent on FinCom support. And I've been in touch with James, and I believe they're going to discuss that tomorrow night. But tonight, we can make both that amendment to the charter and the appointment. Correct? Now, with regard to the amendment to the seat, are we converting one of the seats to FinCom? What's the recommendation?
You do have a candidate nominee or appointment from the CONSCOM,
Yep.
Melissa Webster. The Board of Health has not responded to me. I don't know if they've responded to any of you about any potential applicants.
Okay.
So you can either, to be more helpful, you can either add a seat and hope that the Board of Health selects somebody as you wanted for the charter, or you could replace that Board of Health seat with the Finance Committee or any other thing you can dream up. But those are the two most obvious options.
Well, I would recommend we convert the seat, and then if the Board of Health does want to appoint someone, we can make an additional change if
Yeah.
needed. But I don't know that adding a seat, because we have how many on there now? 7?
It would be 5.
It would be 5. It's 5.
If we add this, the FinCom
This would be,
representative.
this would be the 5th
Yeah,
member.
Okay.
so what we'd want to do is amend the DPW Building Renovation Committee charter to substitute the Board of Health representative with a Finance Committee representative?
Yes,
Is that the motion?
that would be the motion,
Okay.
I think.
Can I amend the motion?
Yes, you may amend the
I
motion.
noticed in the number 5 of the 5 voting members says 1 large members from the residents of Carlisle. So I think this should be amended to at-large, 1 at-large.
I think that would be a separate amendment, but
Yes.
I think we can make that correction.
All right.
Why don't we stick with the original amendment, and then we'll make sure that was.
Okay.
Thank you for-
You're like sturdy DPW.
That's right.
So we
All
have
right,
a
so-
motion to amend the charter to change
Yeah, I
one of the
can,
5 voting members from Board of Health to the Finance Committee.
yeah, do you need somebody to
Is
move
it-
that, or?
Well, no, that's the motion you
You'll count
made,
what I
correct?
said?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or
So
deliberate?
why was Board of Health on there to begin with? It doesn't seem like a thing.
I think that the Board of Health would play into this because there are implications that may take place with the DPW facility.
Isn't that true of every facility?
It is,
But
that's why it
that's
would
why
be good
we-
to have a
Yeah.
representative.
We added one
CONSCOM being
to
another
our-
essential one because
Okay.
you have wetlands in the area.
Right, okay.
But if that's not gonna play out, then we'll just
Okay,
you know,
all right,
move
fair
on.
enough.
And we have a lot of building committees right now, so I do recognize it's tough to staff them all with all the,
So Board of Health is on some of the committees,
they're on the fire
Fire
station committee, yeah.
station.
and the police too, or not?
No, I don't think they were on that committee, and I think
No,
part of
that-
the learning of that was to get them involved earlier.
And the FinCom is also on,
No,
they haven't been on. in the
No.
past. And there's no statutory reason to not be on, right?
no.
Good, all right, thank you.
It's just more carryover from previous building committees.
Okay,
More of a insistence to have them on rather than not.
Yeah,
I would think, yeah, right, okay.
In the future, we can recommend to the Board of Health as appointing authority that the health director or health agent be a ex officio member of that board
Mm-hmm.
in
Okay.
the future.
Got it.
okay. So we ready for a vote on the amendment on the seat, and then we'll do the appointment to that seat. So all in favor, do a voice vote, all in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now, the second piece of this would be to appoint Mark Bernstein to the FinCom seat contingent on FinCom's approval.
I move that the Select Board appoint Mark Bernstein as the Finance Committee representative to the DPW Building Renovation Committee, subject to the subsequent approval of the Finance Committee.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
It's a contingent on the FinCom approving that he is the
He
rep.
is their rep, yeah.
They
There
didn't
will
have-
be a rep.
They're meeting tomorrow night, so, yeah. And I talked to James, and he's aware of this, so. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Voice vote?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Other
Thank you,
appoint.
Mark.
Thank you, yeah.
Did you want to?
Busy on his phone,
Or do
okay.
we not? The charter.
Do we need an amendment to change, to correct? I think it's
It's
a
just a
fix it. We'll
typo.
fix it.
All right.
It's a typo.
All right.
Okay, so other appointments, as long as we're on, we had another appointment for, I'm sorry, I don't have the.
Ag Commission. Do
Ag
you want me to-
Commission, yeah, why don't you do that one?
I move that the Select Board appoint Richard Heisey as a member of the Agricultural Commission, otherwise known as MAC Heisey, term to end June 30th, 2028.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay. Any further discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. And then we have a recommendation to appoint Melissa Webster to the DPW Building Committee. from
Representing
the
Conscom, right?
Yep.
I move that we appoint Melissa Webster to the DPW Building Renovation Committee, representing the Conservation Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, that committee's scheduled to meet already, so we'll add these
Good.
folks to it, but the.
So they're full up now, right? And the abutter, did we make a policy decision, or just,
We just decided that wasn't.
there's no policy decision, not an abutter. Got it.
All right. So the next up is, let me get the agenda in front of me.
You want this?
Yeah, I got it. We got item 5 is the joint meeting with the Conservation Commission and LSC. We're running a few minutes ahead of schedule, so we'll just check and see who's here. My understanding is Conservation Commission has posted a meeting, and they can open that meeting. LSC did not post a meeting, as they did not expect a quorum. So are there any LSC members? I know there are some CONSCOM members who also are on LSC. Are there any additional LSC members? Yep, on remote, okay. And from Conservation Commission is, let's see, where is,
I don't see George yet.
okay. I see Sylvia, Navneet, hi. And you're on that one, so you have a,
And is Nick Ognabene?
okay.
He's
Are
on
you
the-
expecting George?
I thought he was going to try to make it, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think we are expecting.
And I think Melissa was gonna try to make it too tonight.
Okay.
She's away right
What about Dan?
now. I don't know the names.
Okay, we'll give them a couple of minutes since we're ahead of schedule, and I'll use the time to kind of open this section of the meeting. And what I wanted to do at the outset was to just provide some context and background for folks at home and maybe some members of the select board or respective committees that aren't familiar with all the history the long history of conservation and the LSC. The town of Carlisle, if people don't know, owns over 30 conservation parcels totaling almost 1,100 acres of land. Many of the properties have unique features and offer wonderful opportunities for activities like hiking, biking, horseback riding, gardening, nature, and a wide range of other activities. These conservation lands are at the heart of what we refer to as the Carlisle character, and that's discussed further in the Carlisle Master Plan. And their management and maintenance is critical importance and significance to our entire community. So it's the jurisdiction of CONSCOM and the LFC, but this is an issue that's important to all of us. So our conservation land parcels were acquired by town meeting vote, all of them, and are permanently protected under Article 97. And their management, maintenance, and land use falls under the jurisdiction of the Carlisle Conservation Commission by that law. In 2005, CONSCOM formed the LSC as a subcommittee to, quote, manage town-owned conservation land and other lands as directed by the town to protect, maintain, and enhance conservation interests. And at the time of its formation, the charter described its two guiding principles as, one, organize and coordinate land maintenance and management activities to balance a number of potentially competing interests, e.g. conservation versus agriculture versus recreation, and two, foster communication with town committees and other organizations with related interests. So at its forming, the LSC was responsible for a defined list of core tasks, but final authority on land use decisions, licenses, and permits remained with CONSCOM. In May of 2024, CONSCOM voted to approve the LSC's revised charter, which is up on the website, which delegated to the LSC the additional responsibilities and authority, including management of Carlisle conservation land agricultural licenses and issuing of land permits. Per the meeting minutes, this was done with the expectation that the LSC would work in partnership with CONSCOM in fulfilling these new responsibilities. This was also done at the time with an understanding that there would be a trial period. It was discussed maybe 2 years, October 2026. I don't know if anything was officially designated, but there would be a trial period for the revised charter, and that after some time, LSC and CONSCOM would get together and see how things were tracking. So in the past year, the Select Board has received multiple points of feedback, concerns, and complaints from volunteers, residents, and staff related to the responsibilities delegated to the LSC. Recurring feedback is that the current process for managing agricultural licenses and land use permits is not being managed properly, is not collaborative or transparent, and does not reflect the values and priorities of the community. We acknowledge that some of these decisions are inherently divisive and will naturally generate pushback. It is the concerns about process, collaboration, and transparency that is of particular concern to the Select Board. In addition, concerns about proper conservation land maintenance and lack of land use planning are also issues that have been raised. In June, I read a statement supporting the LSC's decisions to date, but acknowledged that process issues did exist, and I commented and committed that we would identify and implement actionable steps that will be taken going forward to ensure fair and transparent land use processes and comprehensive outreach to all stakeholders. Since that time, my understanding is that some changes and process improvements have been made, but we continue to receive, the Select Board, additional feedback that problems persist, particularly with regard to the Woodward property and more recently Foss Farm, as you can read from the emails included in the meeting packet. As our liaison to both CONSCOM and LSC, Barney Arnold will speak to this a bit more in a moment. Today, our goal is to have an open and frank discussion with the CONSCOM and members of the LSC to take stock of where things stand today and what needs to be done to improve the conservation land management process going forward. Specifically, I would like to hear from members of CONSCOM about the following. What is your assessment of how things are going? How is it working? Have you been working in partnership with the LSC as intended? Have you been working jointly on key license and land use decisions? Do you feel CONSCOM is providing the LSC with sufficient direction and oversight? And in return, do you feel like you're getting enough information from CONSCOM or from the LSC? And what changes or improvements, if any, do you recommend making to address concerns that have been raised? In terms of this meeting, I'll turn it over to Barney for a few minutes, and then I'd like to hear from a member of CONSCOM on this topic. Following that, I welcome additional comments from LSC members in attendance and the public. I will allocate time at the end for Select Board members to provide their individual perspectives.
Can I ask a question before we go to Barney?
Yep.
The LSC is a subcommittee of the CONSCOM,
Yes.
and per the rules, is the subcommittee made up of members of CONSCOM, or are there people who are not on CONSCOM?
There is Brian Murphy is on CONSCOM and serves as the chair of LSC, but the members that are appointed are not on CONSCOM.
So how does it become a subcommittee if it's not? To my understanding, a subcommittee is a subset of the members of a committee. How did that even happen?
Mr. Chair, so George is here. You
Yep.
might want to open the
Yeah.
CONSCOM meeting and then.
So George, do you want to open the CONSCOM meeting?
He's muted.
Yeah, it's, I can't even find him.
The top one, just the paper showing.
Okay. Yeah, George, if you could unmute,
Maybe
you can hear us.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, there you go. We hear you now.
So I'm just dialed in, trying to see who's here from Conscom. I gather we have 3 members, plus Megan Sullivan, who's the administrator.
George Navneet
I was
is
hoping
here.
there was more, but that's all there is.
George, we have,
Um,
he might not be able to hear you. We have Navneet and Sylvia here, and Brian Murphy.
Oh.
So we have 3 members here in the room.
Okay, I was looking at the members and Sylvia. Thank you.
Nick and Melissa are here remotely.
Okay.
So, let me just relay what I think I've.
But can you open your meeting, please, George? Maybe with a roll call?
I guess I can. I
Hey,
didn't know we were doing a formal meeting.
It's a joint meeting.
Yeah. You know, you can just do a roll call of the members that are here, both
All right.
online and in person, and then call the meeting to order.
All right,
posted.
so let me call this meeting of the Conservation Commission to order and take a roll call vote, please. Nick?
Aye.
Let's see, Melissa?
Aye.
Hello, Melissa, good. Brian?
Aye.
Navneet?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We have a 6-person majority. So let me call this meeting to order for the Conservation Commission.
Okay, set.
Okay, so the CONSCOM meeting is open, and I would like to turn it over to Barney as the liaison from the select board to say a few comments.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Yes, in June, late June, when the select board was making their liaison assignments, I took on being the liaison for the Land Stewardship Committee and the Conservation Committee. And I had the opportunity to work with Brian and Suki Provenzano, who's also online, and she's the vice chair of the LSC. And in fact, after their first meeting, which I was not able to attend, I think both of them called me and said, you know, we really need to talk about how these meetings are working and see if we can improve. And I know a good effort has been made by them to get the agendas posted and make the agendas more clear, provide information ahead of time. But the main thing that became clear to me after attending a number of the meetings was that conflicts came up immediately, were evident immediately among the committee members. And some of that is, I think, some of the history of the last year or so since the LSC's charter was changed to give them responsibility for the maintenance of the land, our conservation land. But I think what makes it, from my vantage point, I think the LSC has difficulty moving forward on its agenda because there's not an agreement among the committee members about the overall purpose and management plan for Carlisle's conservation land. So you have members on the LSC who have different points of view, and in fact, over time, in my observation of the meetings, began to be called, well, let's have this side represented by this person and this side represented by a different person, even an acknowledgement that there's sides on the LSC. And so I know there are a lot of specific concerns and people feel that something happened this way and that others feel it happened a different way. But I think it's not particularly helpful to get into the kind of back and forth about what may have specifically happened on at a particular meeting, but to recognize that without a shared understanding of what the long-term plan is for our conservation lands, and that's something that the LSC doesn't decide on its own. I mean, that's something that the CONSCOM has to play a very significant role in, but also it's something that our entire community wants to weigh in on. As Scott said, it's a very important resource we have here in town. So
Hey, I'm gonna have to remember you now.
I identify that as one of the very significant reasons that the committee has had a hard time moving forward, because there's been a lot of disagreement. And I think it's been a learning process for the leadership on LSC, figuring out how to manage conflict, sometimes done well, sometimes not done well. And so it's not a very functional group. And that's not to say anything about anybody's intent. I think everybody on the committee really cares about Carlisle, wants to make sure our town has, protects its conservation land, but there's just not a shared plan for what that means going forward.
That's intra LSC and also between LSC and CONSCOM,
Mm-hmm.
both of those.
Yep. And CONSCOM, if you look at the Conservation Commission, they've not gone through a process over at least my time, being involved in town government, to develop a 5-10-year plan for what's happening with our conservation lands. I mean, there's a
Is there a land use management? Don't we have this 10-year look at all periodically?
Well, that's described in that very first 2005 establishment of a need for an LSC, but my understanding is we don't have an individual management plan for any of the conservation lands. That whole description has not happened. So
Could I invite CONSCOM, if you guys want to come up to the table, just so as we move to a discussion with the committee? Because we discuss this, or we get this feedback, we'll have discussions on our end and in our meetings, but I'm curious to hear from CONSCOM about your perspective on some of these topics.
LSC is not having a public meeting, right?
No,
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 just
Sorry, what did you say?
CONSCOM.
you're not having a public meeting, no.
No, because we couldn't get a quorum together.
So you can't speak for the committee? What are the rules?
He's representing CONSCOM. He's also a member
I
of
understand
CONSCOM.
that, but that
LSC
LSC
members,
cannot.
they can comment, they
They
can
can-
deliberate.
Yeah. Anyway.
So.
I don't know if George wants that.
Yeah, George-
Navdeep, you want
Yeah.
s-
So from my perspective, that this change in the LSC charter came about at a time where it was overwhelming some of the land management issues that arose.
Mhm.
And I expressed some concerns, which is why I think, and as a Conservation Commission as a whole, I think there was some concerns, like, let's test this out, let's see, hence the, 1 year, 2 year, and reassess thought process. For this very reason, because there are pretty distinct sets of opinions that we could even see even before the charter was changed. In kind of running through your bullet point questions, I don't think it's working well. And I have some serious concerns that in the past several weeks to months, but more poignantly after getting the CCF letter yesterday evening, that I'm speaking for myself, not as the entire commission, of course. I'm concerned that I am responsible for decisions that are being made that are not in line with how I think they should be made. And that we could potentially fix if we had a one direction, one voice from LSC, and we had better communication, but I'm afraid that that's not the case. And so, in my opinion, if we were going to make edits to the LSC charter, it would include that any sort of licensing, permitting that is legal in nature, like where you have to consult with CRs, et cetera, that needs to come from the Conservation Commission, those decisions. And I know that might, not everyone will agree with me on that, because it, again, puts the onus on us. And it's potentially a lot of work. I think the other thing I'd love to see edited is that if there's major changes in land use, sort of theme or, you know,
Mowing?
yeah.
Mowing?
It needs to be a bigger discussion with the Conservation Commission. And that if money from one line item is to be moved to another line item, another use, that needs to be approved by the CONSCOM. I think the issue still is there, that it's a lot of work. The LSC does a lot of good work. And I don't think the CONSCOM has the bandwidth to do all of that sort of really important observation and care and maintenance of these very valued pieces of property. But I think that the CONSCOM seems to have a better grasp of balancing out everybody's point of view across the town. It's not just my opinion. I'm sitting on this board, this committee, trying to represent everybody's wishes, the entire town, because it's not CONSCOM's land, it's not the select board's land, it's not LSC's land, it's the town's land, and we all want to enjoy it and take care of it. So I think that has been lost a little bit. So this is my point of view. I'm eager to hear my fellow committee members' thoughts.
Could I possibly weigh in, or I'm on a mobile phone and I'm not sure how to, this is Melissa, I'm not sure exactly how to use this app.
We hear
My
you.
mobile
Yeah.
phone, I'm really sorry, I'm in Vermont.
You're doing fine, Melissa. Keep going.
Yeah, all right. I concur with Navneet's 3 points on where the charter should be modified and CONSCOM should step up and take a stronger role, or the role. And I also concur with her that I greatly value the efforts of land stewards members in endeavoring to formulate baselines and think about the future. I also agree that with the earlier comments on the select board that we lack visionary statements, long-term plans for these lands. I also agree that I'm quite uncomfortable with the notion of, I think CONSCOM is, in some areas, the deed holder for many of these lands, and so from a legal responsibility, I think CONSCOM must re-engage there. So anyway, I'm in accord, and thank you, Navneet, for speaking up.
Well, let me jump in here at my turn. And Navneet, I think you phrased it very well. I must admit, I'm at a loss a little bit because I've only been the chairman for 11 months now, and when I came on board, there was a big motion to work with the Woodward property to change what was actually happening, and I must admit I got persuaded by the proponents to say this looks like a good idea in trying to manage the property in a different way. I don't have the history to talk about the farmers and so on and how they interact. I don't know exactly which ones are part of the AgCom and how much they're looking forward to using particular property within Carlisle. So I must admit, I'm a poor representative from that standpoint. That said, I agree with what Navneet and Melissa are saying, that I think the operation of the LSC needs to be tied more closely to the CONSCOM, with a role of the CONSCOM to make approvals for decisions that LSC makes. So I'd like to hear about more of the issues that are before the select board at this time.
You want to hear now what the issues are? That have
Well,
come-
no, I've seen a lot of the paperwork that just
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah,
and I think that it's a good summary, but we need to work with the LSC and the CONSCOM and the select board to define specifically whose function is what.
Not to pile on here, but just, Nick Ogden, another CONSCOM commission member. I don't want to belabor the point, but I agree wholeheartedly with Navneet's thorough and thoughtful summary of the issue here. And I think, at the risk of stating the obvious, I think that a lot of this was brought about by the process of reallocating the license for use of the Woodward land, and I think that it's probably pretty apparent, but that decision was pretty unpopular with a large portion of the town and the key stakeholders involved in the Woodward land, and both the outcome and I think the process by which it was attained, to me, showed a sort of disregard for the interests and concerns, valid, conservation-driven concerns of other stakeholders beyond the plan that was conceived by at least some portion of the LSC. Easier to diagnose, harder to address, but I think that Navneet's points are good ones, and that's a good sort of framework for how to try to deal with this situation moving forward.
Looking at me.
Yeah, Sylvia, I'm curious. I mean, you have a long history.
Yes, I do.
You used to work here before you joined the CONSCOM,
Did I?
didn't you?
And I, as the conservation administrator in 2004 and 5, who approached the then chair of the Conservation Commission and said, I'm reading that some towns have land stewardship committees. And so we went through a process to review what that would be, and it was really established in 2006, the existing one. The town had just been through most of, but not quite finished, with a subdivision called Tall Pines, and was already entering into other subdivisions, projects, 3 in parallel, and finding the bandwidth to manage conservation land was very difficult. Yours was one of them, by the way. Anyway, so the land stewardship got started. They determined that they needed to look at all the conservation lands and do baseline assessments, and then come up with management plans. Baseline assessments have been done, I believe, on all the major conservation lands that we have. And they're up on the land stewardship section of the website. There are management plans as well that are there for some of them. The issue with management plans is you can do the baseline assessments and you review it with the Conservation Commission so they see what's there. Management plans have to be a public hearing. And I think some of their frustration has been that it's been difficult to integrate that part of the process in with.
When you say there, you mean the LSC's frustration?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they have wanted to move a little further on and come up with management plans for some of these parcels. And am I wrong here? And sometimes it lags because there's been so much work with wetland stuff. But we have to do that. I mean, it just has to be done. And along the way, goals seem to change, and people think, well, this would be a good idea, why don't we try this? And it might not be exactly the way it's been done in the past. And sometimes they make these big decisions get made without really always looking at the consequences, and I think we need to do more of that. So, and that's, just study a section of change, for example, on a property and see what happens as a result before you do it for the whole property. But anyway, we're here. I completely endorse what Navneet and the others have said. I believe that the town hall staff and the Conservation Commission itself should be responsible for legal documents such as agricultural agreements to make sure they're done right. And it's basically a canned process. It's in a folder, all the different steps that you have to do and go through. It takes a couple months to go through the whole process. And I worked hard to get all of the license agreements on the same schedule. When I started, they were all over the place because we got these lands at different times. And so I worked to get them so they were all ending at the same time and we'd start them all over. And there we are.
So you might be surprised, but I don't disagree with what's being said. I do think that we need better coordination. I would disagree on the land use permits. If the Boy Scouts want a campfire, I think we could probably approve that
Oh,
land
yeah,
use,
yeah.
but ag licenses, obviously, and, for me, it's difficult because I've only been the chair of LSC since July, and we inherited this stuff. The Woodward property, that was all something we talked about in Conscom before it got taken over. And I think like other commissioners, we didn't really focus on all the LSC stuff. So I didn't really get how involved it was until I was on the LSC side. Because we would say, oh yeah, okay, and it seemed like a good idea to take the Boy Scouts out of Conscom or a walk and put it in LSC. And I don't know, I guess in the past, Sylvia sort of was a repository for all those documents. We certainly make sure now they all go back. The night of a meeting, something gets signed, it gets scanned and sent right over. So it should all be in the record. But I think we need a lot more feedback. We don't really have any joint meetings between LSC and Conscom. And maybe we should at least every 2 months to get the feedback from either way.
So I'm here, yep, do you have a comment?
It's Brian. You through, Brian? Are you through?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, if I have the floor for a moment?
Yeah, your name, please?
Join my friend.
Yep, just so we have the full.
This is Warren Lyman. He actually was the first LSC chair.
I mean, before we, from a Conscom, so what I'm hearing from the Conscom members in attendance is general agreement on the points Navneet was making, which would entail some specific changes to the charter and some procedural changes, joint meetings and all of that. So, given that, I mean, is that something that Conscom is going to look to address? Are you looking for the select board? And we'll hear from the select board too at the end in terms of the role we can play. I mean, my view is this is Conscom's jurisdiction and we're here to support the process, but I also want to give you the leeway to manage the process.
Yeah, so I won't speak for George, but the way I see it is that I appreciate the select board bringing this up in an open, sort of joint approach, because I don't think I have been privy to all of the conversations that are happening on the sides. And I am, this is a volunteer position, so like, I don't hear of every single goings on that happens outside of meetings, and I think that that's a problem. And so now that it's in this forum that we are and through emails that are, you know, public emails, but they're bringing to light the issue. I think now I'm more firm in like, okay, at our next meeting, we're gonna rework this charter. I don't think I had that clarity, you know, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, because I wasn't aware of all of the goings on. And that's a problem, and that's a huge problem, because again, ultimately, I feel responsible. You know, I'm in a profession that's very much aware of, you know, liability, and I don't want to be tacitly making, you know, decisions when I don't know what's happening, actually.
So I would propose that CONSCOM and LSC meet and discuss what our issues are, maybe in a, I don't know, not executive session, but a meeting that doesn't involve a special meeting.
Right.
And then come back and, maybe we agree, maybe we don't agree. If we don't agree, we come back and, well, I don't see we can't agree because we're a subset of, right? But
CONSCOM
we
has
come
many more
back
than that
to,
one.
we come back to the select board and say, you know, these are what we propose for changes. You know, I know one of them is, somebody didn't like that the LSC, we need more members, you know, because we have a lot of properties. And it's a variable, I forget, 10 to 12 members or
It's
something.
kind of an odd.
And some people don't like that. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way or not. I mean, if that's even allowed under statute to have, certainly CONSCOM has 7 members.
You're looking at me, so typically the larger.
I think you know everything.
No, typically the larger, more nebulous committees are doer committees. So you need a lot of volunteers and bodies to, like trails, for example, to go out and do trail work or to do land stewardship. But if you're a policy board and you're making decisions that are difficult in the public sometimes, then having a set number really matters, because then you can't have a nebulous quorum and people can't point to that as a source of lack of authority.
But if we're inherently gonna change the charter where some of those more policy decisions are no longer residing in the LSC, then they can have a larger membership to help manage all of the properties, I would assume.
Correct, but if you're a staff member like me and
Yeah.
someone says a majority of the board believes this and it's contentious, well, is a majority 5 of 10,
Yeah. No, I
7 of
hear you.
12, right? So that can be used to make decisions less.
Would it be okay
convincing.
to have that larger number and then the line change from meeting to meeting if it's just for land use permits? Or is that also, you need a set number? Because
You need a
we
quorum.
may end up defining it that, you know, licenses and, you know, overarching land use decisions are gonna reside with CONSCOM, but like you said, the Boy Scouts wanting to use the property, that would have to be.
If the committee can vote, this is just generally speaking, not talking about this
Okay.
committee, I would have a set number, but there is a mechanism for associate members or non-voting members that you
Okay.
can get as big as you want.
Okay.
ESC does that well. So they have a set core group,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of volunteers who just want to participate in the mission.
Okay.
And the town of Acton does that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The town of Acton does that. I guess I don't know what their core is for their LSC, but they have a big group of associate members or volunteer, and another layer of volunteers
Mhm.
to get things done.
And Navneet, I would say that as the Conservation Commission, if the LSC, you know, is working well as a group, I think you would want them to come to you and recommend.
Oh, yes,
Right,
100%.
supporting this license for this amount of time, and here's why.
Yep.
So having a defined number of people that are actually voting members of the LSC is much, is gonna work much better from that standpoint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Since I was here, can I add one thing? So the staff was involved initially when this was proposed as moving to the LSC, and it was specifically because there was members of the public and members of the LSC who didn't feel like their input was being heard by the CONSCOM, not because the CONSCOM wasn't receptive, but because they were too busy. right? So then they took over the authority, this is just a staff perspective, and then it went the other way. So people who had the same process over in many, many years, decided over many years, were saying, well, now it's flipped. But initially, it was because that perspective wasn't being heard, whether it was a minority or not.
Sure.
Secondly, I agree with Sylvia when she says that the staff should execute these documents, these legal documents, but I would add only after the direction of that document has been decided. So all we should be doing is,
Yeah.
so that has also been a problem here, is to understand what it is that these policymaking boards want us to execute. And then it's very easy. You give it to us and we make sure the lawyers look at it and it's very clear. But deciding what goes in the document is very hard, and that should be a policy decision on the boards and committees.
I remember when the issue of grazing came up on conservation land. We didn't have ever any grazing on conservation land, and I worked very hard with town council to come up with a special license agreement that would allow for grazing, but also take up the issue of what happens if one of these critters gets loose and gets out on a highway, for example. And we really, you don't normally think of that in agriculture, the regular agriculture we had been using. But I think working in-house and making sure that all of the stuff is in the license agreement is important. One of the other things that I think has been...
Sylvia, just remember though, when you were doing it, you cared more about the outcome than the staff would now, or future staff will.
Because I live here, yeah.
And you were involved in the creation of it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so that's gone.
Mhm.
It's unlikely to produce another Sylvia. So it's really important that these decisions be made and given to staff,
Mhm.
decided.
Yes.
Whereas you were born from that era, right? So is a staff member, so kind of a hybrid staff
Right.
member. Megan cares about this, and so do
Mhm.
I, but not to the point where we would ever influence the decision or even be
Mhm.
involved, right? Like, it's just to execute.
One of the other things that I have noticed over the past more recent years is that as land stewards took on more responsibility, first of all, they had a harder time getting through their agendas, but also they only met once a month, whereas CONSCOM met twice a month. And as a result, when somebody, for example, wanted a permit for something, they had to really go way in advance of the meetings in order to get it permitted. And sometimes, like this, I keep bringing up the Scouts, but it could be any organization. If they got a request in on a Monday of a week that we were going to be meeting, we could tackle it at that meeting. But now it might be over a month before that, and that's kind of hard on the people who want to plan for using something. And the whole purpose, at least I was told when I started, for the land use permits was, one, for making sure that what the person or the outfit wanted to do was legitimately allowed for that property, but also to make sure that there wasn't somebody else that was planning to use that property. It was sort of a gatekeeping thing, and not, I want to ride my horse, so you need a permit. That isn't anything like that.
So Sylvia's example is good. We had the Carlisle Boy Scouts wanted to have, I don't remember if it was Thanksgiving or whatever. LSC had just met. They came, we want to go next weekend. And crap, what am I going to do? So I took it to CONSCOM, and they decided, because there was no LSC meeting and we weren't going to disappoint the Boy Scouts. So we sort of did a hybrid and moved it over, and there was no issue with the CONSCOM approving it, but there was no LSC to approve it that week.
I mean, it seems like there's a lot of different instances you need to work through to
Mhm.
determine where it lives, how it needs to be managed. And
Mhm.
we're not going to do that tonight.
No.
But I think having that commitment to doing it from the CONSCOM is important. Unless there's any other new comments from CONSCOM, I do want to open it up to LSC members and the public as well for for additional comment. Brief, and I don't want to get into specific decisions that were made or this and that, but just comments in general about what we're talking about tonight. So do you want to
Okay.
just state your name and?
Yeah, Warren Lyman.
Yep.
And I like what a lot of people have said, including you, Barney, and I'll get back to what Brian said a minute ago. And Sylvia, too. Sylvia has been so key. She and another CONSCOM member were the ones that said we need a land stewardship committee. I volunteered, and then I've been on it for 20 years. I've probably been on 5 or other CONSCOM subcommittees. I started volunteering in 1978 on the CONSCOM, and so I think all total I've been over what I call 30 committee years, most of it, all except 2 committees for conservation. So some general comments, flying from maybe 50,000 feet. I would urge no select board initiated mandate right away. I like Brian's comment of getting CONSCOM and LSC together and coming to you, if necessary, with something to review. And I have to tell you, in the days when Sylvia was a conservation administrator, she was the only glue between the 2 committees. She would come and go to every meeting. She would tell us what was going on at CONSCOM, and I presume she would tell CONSCOM what was going on at LSC. And if we were in the middle of doing something important or sensitive, she would say, this is probably the best way to do it. When she was not available and we got more work, we were left with no administrative support. We could have done a lot better with it. We had no support, and we're still not getting it unless we ask. I mean, it's not, nobody tells us, you can do this. We should have had them involved for some of those critical decisions. It would have been a lot better.
You mean on the LSC?
What?
In the LSC's work you're referring to?
Yes, yeah, it would have been better.
Yep.
Now, I have to tell you, you know, this is going to take 2 to tango. And my experience with CONSCOM members, not Sylvia, is that they are
I'm
very.
a member.
What?
You weren't, though.
I'm a
Well,
member.
back then, I'm talking when she was the administrative assistant, and to some extent now too, that they're very busy and they have no desire to be any busier or to
Well,
do things.
I don't know that you need to speak for the CONSCOM members. I think, they're making a commitment tonight to do this work. And I
Yes,
think
yes.
in
I'm
good
just telling you,
faith.
as my personal.
No, I understand that.
That if I ask them
In a minute.
to get a report reviewed, forget it. I don't think they ever reviewed a report that the LSC put out for 15 years, in spite of requests. And occasionally, when other subcommittees have gotten into trouble.
Do you have any comments, just, again, based on what's being proposed? It sounds like you support.
Yeah, I'm saying people are making criticisms about our actions when we have been working with another committee who has their own problems. So I think that nobody has said that. And some of their problems are really big. I won't name them now.
And I don't want to get into that tonight,
Okay.
but I hear what you're saying, and I think we'll move on to the next
Yeah.
comment, if you don't mind. John, do you want?
Excuse me, but I'm
Oh,
on LSC.
excuse me.
Can I
Yeah.
have my turn before he goes?
No, I'm gonna let him just speak
Why
now.
are you doing that?
Well, because he had his hand raised before you did.
Yeah, but you did all the CONSCOM.
Yeah, I'm
and-
chair, and I've recognized him. I'll come back to you, no worries.
I'm gonna bite my tongue, but I rather resent being portrayed as being a conservationist of the year and 15 years on the Conservation Commission. I rather
Yeah,
resent
please
being
just,
labeled as
sorry,
not
state
paying
your name,
attention.
state your name and.
John Lee, 65 Lowell Street.
Thank you. And again, I do not want this to transition into personal attacks or criticism. I mean, I think we've identified there's an issue. CONSCOM is in agreement about steps to take that issue, and the select board is committing to make sure those steps are taken. I don't think, and we'll hear from the select board members, I don't have an appetite to prescribe or dictate anything, but I I am committed to making sure that the process is improved and some of these issues are addressed proactively, and that going forward, this receives the required attention. Because back to the original point, these conservation lands are critical to Carlisle, they're the town's lands, and they need to be managed, they need to be made a priority. And the community needs to have a say in how they're used. And so the processes need to support that. So with that, I'll allow you to.
Wait, John, was
Listen.
John
Oh,
finished?
you finished, John? Sorry.
No, I'm finished for the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So, I just wanted to say in terms of the LSC and, you know, land management and some of these other factors, we have, you know, I certainly regret that we ever got into the Woodward property. It's just a bee's nest that takes all of our meetings. Every single meeting we have abutters there, whether it's LSC or the subcommittee, you know, and we're getting hammered all the time over this decision that was made, which came from CONSCOM originally. It didn't
Well,
come from.
again,
But
I'm not.
my point is that we
Part
don't.
of the responsibility is when you're embarking on making those decisions is to do all the things to ensure that you have support and you've done the outreach and all that. So again, some of these decisions are going to be divisive, but having a well-run, well-supported, well-communicated, transparent process is then critical to meeting those complaints.
So Barney, as our liaison, had that idea, and we made a subcommittee just to try to deal with the Woodward issues. And we could for other things, but it's a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. And I think that's part of what needs to be determined is how do you, this is a tremendous amount of work managing the 1,000 acres of conservation land, but it needs to be managed. And so you have to work together to figure out the best way forward. Sorry, there's a comment online from
Upper left.
upper left.
Oh, it's Adam.
Adam, sorry, I can't see.
Yeah.
Land steward.
Who's on
Oh, hi,
LSC.
Adam. Adam,
Hey,
you want to say something? You're.
Good evening. Yeah, Adam Hoynatsky. I guess though I'm an LSC member, I suppose I'm here as a citizen because during the last LSC meeting, the LSC chose or argued that the committee wasn't prepared to meet today. So not sure if I'm here as an LSC member or as a citizen. Nonetheless, as I am a member of LSC, I do request, I guess, encourage and even request some real and meaningful changes to the LSC charter. So I wanted to share that perspective this evening. It's not something that I believe the LSC and the CONSCOM will solve just by going back and continuing to be told to work better together. From my last 2 years, so it'll be almost 3 years that I've served in the LSC. And from my perspective, it has not been about disagreement among the committee on a particular subject. It stems from a broader disagreement on process and authority, and I know you use that word process as well. I think that's ultimately the scope of the charter. So since the push for autonomy, I think what we have observed is a repetitive disregard for the collaboration that we all trust takes part in these committees and in these groups across the town. I appreciate the members' dedication as much as everyone else to conservation and respect many of the ideas that have been brought forward, but I've for one been very uncomfortable as a member of the committee who isn't allowing for community input and at the end of the day respecting the community's wishes. So that has been a fairly frustrating, I think, situation to forget our obligation is to the town and to its citizens. So as stated in my letter to the board back in August, I continue to urge the subcommittee to serve its citizens. I continue to urge the board and CONSCOM to revise the charter to ultimately limit this autonomy. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you. Sam
State-
Pietropalo, Maple Street.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want to approach.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think, are we picking them up?
Picking up, all right?
Sketchy. Why don't you come up and have a seat?
I'll be brief, but.
Good. And then we're going to hear from the select board.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I'll get you next.
Again, Sam Pietropalo, Maple Street.
Yep.
Really two quick comments, but first, thank you again for pulling a meeting like this together and really refreshing to hear the candid dialogue and decor that's gone on tonight. I don't want to give life to it because Adam just addressed my first point much more eloquently than I can, but I just want to say labels and characterizations of the public, quote unquote, hammering is kind of indicative of sort of what you've heard tonight. how the public is received at some of these meetings. And I think asking questions, fact-checking is part of everything that you all have been saying about process. So asking questions is part of the process. It's not hammering, undermining, and so I just would love for that to come through in those future discussions, that public discourse has good intention, not ill intention. Listening to the direction that you all are seem to be taking this, I'm wondering if there's any commentary from CONSCOM or LSC or the Select Board. The current situations in front, Woodward, Foss that was mentioned, at this point, will those also get wrapped in and brought back to get more input from CONSCOM? I know there's a lot of work going on, but there's talk about how we're going to do things in the future, but we still have things in front of us. So that's the question, and then all set, but thank you.
I don't even know where that stands at the moment.
So that's not a select board.
Yeah, it's not a select board.
Can I just briefly tell you in a couple of sentences? So we have a subcommittee for the Woodward
Yep.
to take input. The next meeting is on Tuesday, which will be public input from the abutters. One of the things they said before is some people, they live right next door, they didn't even know about it. So CONSCOM, or Board of Health, sends out a certified abutter list and tells everybody. So we did that for this next meeting and the one prior, but it was out late, so that we will be more transparent. They get the information, they can go on the website, they can see the documents. Following that, we'll have a meeting with the stakeholders again, except CCF can't make that meeting.
I think you're gonna have to look at all
Yeah.
this and
And
get
then
to,
we'll bring it
before,
all back and we'll bring it
a
to
big pause
CONSCOM.
button is probably
Yeah.
the best
Fix the
item.
process and then revisit.
Yeah, because I think charging forward when you're gonna be looking at
Exactly.
potential changes, I think you just wanna be careful about that.
I can't say that this is exactly how it's gonna be done, but how I see it is that we go back, we rework the charter, and these two major issues that are points of contention come back and reside with the CONSCOM. That's how I see it. But
Understood.
I see that the LSC, the work that they're doing, the communications, the meetings, the talk of it, distilling it down because of what has been
Mhm.
mentioned
Sure.
of the other responsibilities CONSCOM has, and then presenting that, and then the CONSCOM ultimately makes a decision.
Okay,
That's
great.
how I would like to see it happen, but I'm not,
That seems to
again,
make a lot of sense. No, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree. This is Melissa. I just want to say I agree with what Navneet just said.
Great. State your name.
Jonathan DeCock, 130 Oak Knoll Road. So I've been listening to everything that people have said tonight, and I agree with a lot of what Navneet said, but I don't think it goes far enough, because what they were talking about was that the LSC and the CONSCOM would get together and come up with a new charter. And I think that's insufficient. LSC and CONSCOM interact with a lot of other constituents throughout the town, and I think we need to get input from those constituents as well in order to make a much better charter. And I would caution everyone to not try to patch it and get something out quick. I think one of the problems that I have seen repeatedly with the Land Stewardship Committee is doing things in haste. And I would much rather see a more deliberative process that comes out with a better solution than a repeated patching of something, especially something as important as a charter. So,
And to your point, the original charter, the guiding principle, outreach, communication with other groups and organizations was critical to the process. So to your point, any new charter should be vetted with all the different stakeholders.
Right.
Public, organizations, groups. Again, these are the community lands that we're looking to adjudicate.
yeah. I did also want to mention a couple other things. I know you've gotten lots of letters about this. I have not sent you a letter about this,
Yeah,
oddly.
please.
But I do want to say a
Longer the
few
better.
things, in the meeting. A couple of the issues that I've seen specifically with the Land Stewardship Committee is this failure to collaborate that you've heard about repeatedly.
Before you go into the, I guess my question is, rather than, I don't want to use their words, hammer the LSC tonight, but is there anything that, in our discussion, that is a different issue that hasn't been raised tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
There's one.
If you could just focus on that.
So I do think the haste thing is something to think about.
Yep.
But more importantly, what I have seen repeatedly is violations of open meeting law. I have not filed any. However, I have seen 6, 7 at least, mostly in the Land Stewardship Committee. Sometimes they even extend out beyond the Land Stewardship Committee and involve CONSCOM. Your last joint meeting actually had a violation of open meeting law where the Select Board and CONSCOM and LSC were meeting together. You discussed a document. Barney caught it during the meeting and said, you need to publish this document. That document is still not on the town's website. So that's a requirement of open meeting law, that if you present a document or discuss a document, it has to be available.
So that is true, but available means if you request it, the town gives it to you.
Yes,
So we
however,
we
it did not make
violate
your
the-
minutes, it did not make the CONSCOM minutes, and it did not make LSC minutes. So that's just
Transparency
one.
is
But yes,
crucial.
transparency.
And
Mr.
So-
Chair, let's keep it on the high level.
Yeah. Okay, thank
So
you.
I would just recommend that something happen in order to do better with open meeting law compliance. I know the state is very loosey-goosey about this. You basically sign something that says you agree that you read it. I think we need to do better.
Yep, and that's, I think, true across all committees.
Yep.
Okay, I want to turn it over to the select board for your individual comments. Christine, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what Barney said, there needs to be a shared understanding of a long-term plan, and that requires dialogue. I will say that second only to the MBTA, we've had more mail on this topic than anything else, and that's saying something, you guys. In general, when you look at a committee that's functioning really well, you should be able to line up all the stakeholders and everyone's nodding in the same direction, saying even if they don't agree with the decision, they understand the rationale behind it. None of that is happening here. You guys have upset the abutters, the Pony Club, for goodness sake, you know, CCF, everyone has come out on this. And really all the select board is interested in is, well, at least from my perspective, I'm very concerned about risk. Jonathan brought it up. There are serious and persistent OML violations. I did a spot check on the website. I found 15. Does anyone know off the top of their head what the consequence is if the AGO finds us in violation? We have $1,000 per infraction. I counted 15 just in a random check. So that's a risk. We need to fix that. It can't just be signing off on OML training. We need everyone like heads down, actually absorbing the process. I know that there are a number of plot holders. Sylvia, I believe, is one at Foss Farm. Seed catalogs are lining my mailbox every day. I want to make sure that Foss Farm is plowed by March 15th. Do we have arrangements for that? It had been plowed by Farmer Duffy. Is that still happening, or do you have someone else lined up?
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
You keep it at the.
You guys will
high
figure it out.
level.
Just make sure we don't have a number of unhappy gardeners coming to the select board. 'Cause that's one constituency we haven't heard from yet. What's that?
We just heard from them.
Yes, we did. We did have that action from the June meeting to submit the process for license agreements. That's kind of, you guys need to figure out the overarching process and then carry forward with the tactical. And then just in general, you know, Scott mentioned the charter in an effort to educate myself. I went back and read the original 2005 charter. Very interesting that in the early pages, page 7, 2 guiding principles would be to, 1 is to organize and coordinate land maintenance and management activities to balance, and that's a key word here, balance a number of potentially competing interests such as conservation, agriculture, and recreation. So there needs to be a balance among all those 3 things. And then second is to foster communication with town committees and other organizations with related interests. So all your stakeholders should be informed of your decision making. If that's not taking place, then you haven't done your job. I think that's it from me.
Don't sugarcoat it. I'd like to ask, first of all, Sylvia, since you originated the LSC, do other towns do it that way as well? They have a, LSC is a subcommittee of a, because I think that's like a crazy construct.
It is.
Why do we have a subcommittee of a committee where they don't have members in common? Why don't we just create a separate committee?
I don't know if, I suspect other towns have their own land stewardship committees. Whether they are called a subcommittee, I don't know. I do know in one town that I contacted early on, I felt as though the land management that was going on, that they were talking with me about, was completely irresponsible managed. I mean, they were
Well, you
just
wouldn't
going
use an
out.
example of a town that's not well managed, but
Yeah,
you
I mean-
didn't see other examples of.
No.
In that original document, the 2005 study that Warren referred to, and Greg Peterson, a lot of other people on it, they reviewed various towns, and I don't remember the specifics, but a lot of them had some version of this.
Okay, so it's not unusual.
No.
So, in the way we set it up then, what, were you, when you were administrator, were you a resource for both of them? Or only for the conscom? I mean, did we set up LSC without a professional resource, I guess is my question.
Professional resource?
Meaning
They
like
were-
you, at that
Staff
time.
support.
Yes.
Staff
No,
support.
there was no staff support, except that I'm a resident, and I went to all of them
I know you did.
as a
but
volunteer.
We gave them a really hard assignment, as articulated by Christine,
Yeah.
and no staff support, right?
So we have assigned Sarah Wasserman, who's online right now.
So now we have that.
She's our sustainability coordinator in town, and I've given her the duty to help the LSC with long-term.
Because they clearly need help. You can't just give them a big old
We
agenda.
haven't met with her at all.
Well,
Yes.
okay, all right. So let me finish so these are kind of quick questions. I just want to be clear. And I'm sorry, I didn't read the charters, but is there a pretty clear parting line? I'll ask you, because you probably know, between the roles and responsibilities of the two, the committee and the subcommittee? Or
No,
is it
not in the
spread?
current charter.
Okay, so that's kind of on us, right? They're our committee. We gotta make sure it's clear. Okay, so then, can the LSC make its own rulings?
They're not your committee, so they're the
Well, the conscom is our committee.
So you appoint the conscom, and then
Right,
they
so
can
fix it. No, I
liaise.
agree with Christine. You got problems, but I'm saying, we, the town, allowed a crappy delineation. We didn't give them staff support. I don't want to just pile on.
There's I think the new subcommittee policy will at least
Right,
make sure
okay,
we
so-
get our eyes on it.
I don't want to dwell on it, I just want to understand the facts. So, the LSC can make its own rulings, I know there's a time the Boy Scouts and stuff, or do they only recommend through the conscom?
I think that's what we're gonna work through,
Okay,
the
but-
details of it, but it has to change from what it
But
is
what
right
is it now?
Currently now, they can.
They do what they want.
They-
But you
Well,
get-
no,
why
it
they-
says specifically they can
Issue-
determine permits and
Under the whole-
leases.
There's some
and
things,
any-
tactical.
Anything related to
Well, those are
conservation
big things.
lands.
Originally,
Big
it
things.
was that the Conservation Commission made the decisions. They provided the
So there
information.
was a
That's
true
what shifted
subcommittee.
a year ago.
So that was a true subcommittee,
Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
recommend,
Mhm.
and then the big committee decides.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And then finally, my last question is, does the LSC have, or did they have budgetary authority?
No.
No, okay. So, all right, so it sounds like, it just reiterates, I guess, it needs real basic fixing, Get it sorted, run it right, and then start, addressing priorities. I don't disagree with the priorities. Thank you.
Travis, I'll jump to you.
I think you all said it. I mean, all the issues, I think this has been really helpful for me. And, one difference I will say is, or that I thought about, is that as a select board, we're all elected officials. And sometimes, if you're appointed, we're all live in the community here. We all care about the town. But sometimes if you're appointed, you may not, it may not occur to you as often as it does to us, like you're really representing the town. And so even though you come with, we all have our biases or our things that we're trying to accomplish, but we really do work for the community that we're in, and I just hope you all consider that as you go forward. And then again, what you were saying about training, and I think it is really helpful. It's something that I've learned here on the select board, but is how important this process is. And I was on the zoning board of appeals for years, had a very definitive process on how we ran meetings and took notes and published minutes and, did all those things. And it's really key because ultimately you're seeing what happens when that doesn't work well is the public gets upset that things aren't, minutes aren't being kept or whatever that is. So, and I look to all of you to work at that. That's all I have to say.
Can I make if Sarah is going to be taking over or helping land stewards with land management, I highly recommend that she take the MACC units that are available. and that goes into all the legal backgrounds on managing conservation lands.
So this is something that gets, I just want to clarify staff involvement.
Mhm.
So if by staffing you mean, is she gonna write agendas and post minutes, then no. Can she execute the policies and decisions that are made? No. What she's gonna be there for is to help with long-term planning. A great example is I was told to create a capital plan, so I brought together stakeholders. Not once did I say you should do a dump truck or buy this piece of land. All I did was gather all the information and create a plan and help build that agreement. So what we want Sarah to do, and I've instructed her to do, is to start researching these properties and putting together all of the history and all of everything, so that when these boards are ready to have a discussion about building a plan, it's already built and you don't have to do that exercise, because none of you have the time to do that. What Sarah or I are not going to do is to tell you how to manage your land or what should be done. And in my opinion, that has to be decided first. Otherwise, we're just gonna be here arbitrating fights about OML and other things when we really should be discussing, like, what does the land look like in 2050?
Right.
It seems to me though, Ryan, that that's somewhat setting up for failure, okay? Because we've acknowledged that the issues that they have are complex in the same way, say, planning board issues. Julie's tremendously talented. She will do the background, but she also guides that committee through the rocks that are created through these conflicts. I don't think it's fair to give a volunteer committee, a non-elected volunteer committee, this heavy agenda that's fraught with conflict, as Christine points out. We acknowledge that there's gonna be conflict, and not give them the level of professional. If we're prepared to say this is important to the town, I think we've gotta give it a better level of professional support than you're articulating. You can't just say, here's the history and blah, 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 when you have, the ag people are fighting against the, natural thing. You just can't. You can't give non-professionals that difficult of an assignment and simply expect it to be managed properly, I have to say.
So my professional advice is that everybody is focused on tomorrow and nobody is focused on the future. So what I want to assign the staff to do is to help move the conversation forward.
No, that
In the
too.
same
I'm
way-
not negating that
In
one.
the same way that when you gave me directions on what is the problem here in terms of our deferred maintenance, I helped build a plan with you in order to address future costs and understand the problem. I'd like to do the same with Sarah, but what happens with staff sometimes is because we don't want to do the day-to-day minutia, staff ends up doing that, and I don't think that's.
No, I agree with you. So maybe you buried the lead. I mean, I think that what you are now saying is better. It's long-term vision, but also guidance through the process, not just here's the long-term vision, here's the background. Thank you, go come back to me when you have a solution. Because that's the way it sounded in the beginning. I think it's better articulated. We'll help you frame the plan, we'll help you identify constituent groups and needs, and we'll help guide you through, the process of navigation, not decision-making, but navigation.
I agree, but there's a lot of times these boards and committees, when you do guide them, they don't take well to that.
If you don't.
They push back heavily.
Advice is only as good as you take it.
Well, and we've hired Ryan, and we hire our professional staff to implement what our boards want to put in place. So, that's what Ryan is saying, I think, in speaking for you. But, let's have the boards figure out the policy, and you had some specific changes tonight to a charter, and have that discussion, involve all the stakeholders, and then let the administrators administrate it once you've figured out what you want to do.
I just want to rewind to before this revision of the charter was made a short time ago. Although things weren't perfect by any means, they were better than what they are now. They were. We weren't hearing, CONSCOM, I think, did an okay job of at least identifying the stakeholders and, inviting the best we can that conversation. And she was definitely, like has been mentioned, Sylvia was the glue to that. But I also want, as Ryan's saying, I want to have a system in place that when I'm not here, when you're not there, when Brian's not there, that it still works. Because I don't have the same knowledge that you have, nor will any other administrator have the same knowledge you have. So I want the charter to reflect how things were done before, more closely to how it was done before, but better. Right? Because I agree with you.
Or evolved.
Evolved, yes.
Write it down, I mean, define the process, and
Exactly.
you can change it and do all those things, but we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of that in town right now, is putting processes in place, putting policies in place. It's all about documenting it so people can understand the process and
Yeah.
succession planning and all this other
Yeah.
stuff, and you
Yeah.
need to do that in this case. And
Yeah.
it can change, but you need to start.
I just also want to state one more time that it is an exorbitant amount of work to like go through just the wetland filings. That in and of itself is like a majority of the thought process, the pre-meeting readings, the, you know, whether it's site visits. Like, this was born out of a need for some better support from LSC and more responsibility for them. And I just wanna recognize that, because I understand there's a lot of tension, but like, some of those decisions were made a little bit more streamlined before, and now they're not because of all these opposing, you know, I'm not gonna get into the nitty gritty,
Yeah.
but opposing viewpoints, and then nothing was happening well. But not also communicated to us.
Right.
I just wanna say that, because it's hard to be putting so much time in and then hear about how you're doing everything wrong. You know? Yeah.
We're running late. If you have
Yeah.
very brief comments.
I have a very brief question.
Okay.
Given tonight's discussion, John Lee, 65 Lowell Street, is it safe to assume that the current proposals for both Foss and Woodward can be held in abeyance till we can find some way of agreeing between like the AgCom and the LSC and the Conservation Commission and Board of Selectmen? Because it seems like we have a very dysfunctional situation right now, and coming to an acceptable agreement with an outside licensee or an inside licensee seems to be difficult.
But we have those licenses in place now. I don't know if there's a legal, you know.
I
Duffy
think
wants
based on
to
what the
plan.
CCFs sent out yesterday, that I saw yesterday, I don't know when it was originally sent out, I don't know that's actually accurate. I think that those licenses might not be, we might not be able to uphold those, and we might have to pull back legally.
I don't have an answer to your question. That
Mass General Law is
I'm
very.
gonna need that direction.
The Mass General Law is very clear. The authority over the land is the conscoms, not the select boards. They can appoint them though, so it's a little gray.
So then to answer John's question, that would be decided by the conscom at the next meeting?
So, again, the way I see it is, at our next meeting, top of the agenda is going to be to rework the charter, and hopefully better, not a patchwork, and then revisit those licenses officially.
So what do we do about our next meeting, next Monday?
I haven't, yeah. I think it's okay to talk about, like, pull those conversations, because that is what I see the LSC to do, is to pull those stakeholders into a conversation that requires more time, that the conscom meetings, which are twice a month, don't have the ability to listen to every single person's viewpoint, and allow the public to, the residents of this community to express their desires, and then you guys distill it so that then we can discuss it in the conscom and make a final decision.
last comment, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Two quick things. Sue Pietropalo,
Yep.
Maple Street. Just two quick things about the confusion about the license. When it was first signed, even the LSC said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll move forward. We can get out in 30 days." There's a no penalty clause of pulling out in 30 days. So there's really that drama doesn't really exist.
Okay.
And then
I-
the Sarah comment. There's going to be a new member helping.
Ryan, yeah, Sarah
Will she
Wasserman.
Will she be able to do fact checking, so she'll also be responsible for finding like documentation on claims and not just saying, reading online that someone made a document and this is the best choice because it's my opinion. I'm just wondering if fact checking will be part of her job.
Sue, we talk a lot.
Yeah.
We're besties, I think. I don't know what you mean.
Oh.
Let's take that offline.
I'll take that offline. I'll come see you.
Okay.
And then lastly, you lucky duck. And then lastly, the select board. as the conscom, I'm glad to hear the conscom and some of the LSC members want to rewrite some of the charter and figure out all that. Will the select board commit to having a follow-up meeting to see how things are going? Unless you are to see the charter and vote on it yourself?
This will be
also?
certainly on our agenda, like,
Okay.
in terms, yeah, we're keeping a close eye on this, and I'm sure the public will make sure we're keeping a close eye on this. So we'll monitor what's going on, we'll give our thoughts and comments as needed. Whether that means another joint meeting, I don't know yet, but, I mean, we'll just stay on top of it, and I know Barney will continue as liaison, keeping us abreast of the situation. So this'll remain on our radar, clearly.
The reason I asked is because I think recently you got a bunch of letters, and so I wasn't sure if this meeting was spawned by having to require, having people reach out and write more letters.
No.
So I was
The
wondering
letters
if
are helpful, but this
Yeah.
meeting came out of the ongoing monitoring of the situation and discussions we have, and the feeling that we do need to have this meeting, and
Terrific.
that's prior to getting the last flurry of emails.
Oh, perfect.
I'll give you one last, because I know.
1 second.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we maintain the status quo while all this stuff is happening, because, the gardens need to continue to function, and the gardens depend on the farmer that farms at Foss, and so I don't want a disaster to happen because we're having these discussions.
That's how I would like to see it.
So, as long as we maintain the status quo while we're continuing to find the future, that's good.
So I think Conscom, you should make
Yeah,
that.
George, do you have any,
Explicitly clear.
That was a better articulation of my question.
Yeah, I know.
George, do you have any final comments before, I guess you want to
Yeah.
also then
George would
end
need
your
to close his meeting, yeah.
Close your meeting, but.
I know we're getting late. I just wanted to say I appreciate the inputs from the various speakers. Navneet, I think you did a good summary of where we're hopefully heading, and we're going to work hard to try to make that work. Thank you all.
You gotta close.
And then George.
Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn our conscom meeting.
Second?
So we take a roll call vote. Nick?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Navneet?
Aye.
Sylvia?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
all
you, everyone.
very much.
To be continued.
Yes.
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone's time. All right, we're gonna move along. What do we got? Ooh, the Proctor Road Tower. They always-
Thank you all online
Thank you.
too. But do we vote on their charter? Does Conscom send it to us? Not
No.
really, right? It's their charter.
But in our new policy, we say it's not really, I forget the wording, but like, it needs to come to us.
Right, it's not required, but we want it.
Not legally required, but
Yeah.
we've said we want to see it. So
Yeah.
and if anything seems out of sorts, we
Right.
say, whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa.
Right.
But
But the
I'm
thing is,
hopeful
they're-
that there's some
under-
low-hanging fruit that they
Yeah,
can.
but I mean, I'll talk to George and Navneet
Yeah, yeah.
behind the scenes, but they're not gonna be able to, it's gonna be-
You have highly competent staff.
No, they're gonna have
to
them
do
separate,
It's
They're
just
gonna
a
need
separate, this is gonna be a separate
Figuring out
process
what
to create
is-
the process.
Yes.
You can't just,
We know.
this
We're
is
ready.
not
I know
a
you
10
are.
minutes on the
Yeah, I
agenda
have complete
between
confidence.
Exactly.
bylaw number, you need a subcommittee.
You're funny.
A subcommittee to evaluate subcommittees.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Aye.
We're getting there.
All right.
It's all a work in progress.
So you can catch up, Mr. Chair. I think this is how fast.
No, we're good. I've been watching.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna make it up here, Ryan. Let's go.
Okay, I sent to you today late a fairly boilerplate RFP for issuing out to the world cellular leasing on our pole that's at 2 Proctor Road. We talked about this before, and we had a consultant come in. So essentially, there are two spots for cellular service, and we want to put out an RFP.
Right.
The main thing the 2 things that I need you to give me feedback on is the lawyers put out a 10-year lease with subsequent 5-year agreements. The response we got back after talking to some of the contractors is they prefer a 20-year lease. There's a law
20? Okay.
there's a law that we think says that the 10-year max is a thing, and they say it's 20. I don't think that it matters to the town, but if you do, I would need to know that now, or if you need more information on it. So if we can appeal to more providers and gain more cellular service and revenue, then we would do that. Unless
That would be the theory, you'd get a better deal if you go longer, right?
and more bidders. If town council says absolutely not, we're not doing that, then we won't. But I just want to make sure I articulate that.
Yeah.
The evaluation criteria that was set up was that someone is financially and technically responsible, that they make this aesthetically pleasing, which I think is important to the town.
Mhm.
And the third one is that they have the technical expertise and capabilities to do this. The people that are going to be bidding on this are top-level providers. So I don't think we have any worry there, but that is how we have to evaluate this. The hope is that we get multiple carriers, but maybe we get one or two.
Mhm.
The last thing I wanted to tell you before I take your questions is, so we can put out the RFP, we can get the bids back, that'll include how much they're gonna pay us for this, for this lease, and then the lease itself has to go to town meeting. And what would be being leased is, at that pole, there would be additional ground equipment that's surrounded by a fence, and then the actual antennas that are put up onto our antenna. So that is a very brief summary of this process, heavily run and vetted by town council, and we also sent it to Igor, who is here as a consultant, who is representing the various people that are involved, including their council. So we feel good about where we're at with this. But do you have any questions on what I just said?
It'll improve cell service.
Yes.
And then ultimately, you said if you move with haste, this could be something at town meeting. So the ultimate process is a vote at town meeting?
So we would agree with the provider, and then the town would have to allow us to sign the lease with the provider, and then we're done.
And that's a town meeting vote?
And we think it could be done for the May town meeting.
Yes.
Good.
And then the equipment itself and the construction, everything would be, maybe another year. So this wouldn't be till this time next year.
Mhm.
But I think moving with that goal would be
good.
Would be good.
And it's income to the town, it's revenue.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd say proceed.
I'm comfortable with the
Whatever.
20-year.
I'm good with 20 years. I did have a question about the evaluation criteria,
Yeah.
and I may have missed this. I skimmed it.
Yeah.
It came out a little late, but the, you had these evaluation criteria. Are some more important than others? Do we want to list them in order of priority or assign weightings, or we just don't want to get into that? Because it seemed to me like, I don't know, technical competence was pretty important, where.
Yeah, so we would assign and then compare across categories, so it wouldn't matter. So if one's highly advantageous in that area and another isn't, then we could accept that as being a qualifier.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we want to consider how much they're willing to pay.
Right.
Yeah.
But the intent here is, not only do you have to do it this way, but, you want to make sure you're vetting out anyone who's not qualified.
Right.
I don't think that's going to be a problem here. The companies we're hearing are Verizon and.
Yeah, they're the CSPs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything, 20 years sounds, continuity of service is very important. I have no problem with that part. I suppose if legal counsel had a problem, I would ask the question, is it possible to do, if 10 years is only allowed, can we do 10 years plus an option for 10 more? If for whatever reason, 20 years is not allowed.
There's a 10-year with 4 or 5-year renewals in this current RFP.
Okay.
They want to do 20 with 2 5-years, so
I
I don't
see.
see a huge distinction there.
No, okay, gotcha.
They wouldn't say that if there wasn't legal grounds
Yeah.
to do it anyway, right?
They're supposed to send us a document. They also seemed fine if we put it out without it.
Okay.
They just prefer it. So
But
we're
if you
hoping-
put it out without it, they can only respond to what you put out, so you'd rather get it right.
Correct.
And the overarching problem that we're solving here is what, better cell service in town, or what is it we're doing?
So this consultant came to us and said, you have a hole in your cell service, which anyone who's driven through knows.
A hole?
Really? Just
A
one.
black
just
hole.
one.
Ideal. The best part about this is the
All in my living room, I can't even stick
hole
a
already
leg out.
exists. So they identified it as a place that they want, so we don't have to do anything except the service being added to our pole and everybody agreeing on that.
Okay.
typically, they might say this hill would be good, and then there'd be the construction of an antenna, but we already have one, so this is just adding to something that exists.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I've already forgotten, since having skimmed this afternoon, who owns this land? This is town land?
It's ours.
Okay.
And we have the communications tower on there.
Yes, it already exists.
Do we need to get any input from abutters or anyone
I
who's
was
like,
gonna
in whose
say-
line of sight it is, since aesthetics was part of the criteria? Aesthetics according to whom?
Yeah, do they know where, anybody at Proctor Road know this is coming
No, but they will.
before, it's in the mosquito?
Well, it's Chelmsford. The butters are in
Before
Chelmsford.
tonight, no.
Oh, the
Oh,
abutters
oh.
are in Chelmsford.
Yeah.
So is that like, or do we have to consider
Ah.
their rates as well?
Right, I forgot that.
Well, yeah, we should.
Right.
Yeah, we
But
should.
we did put a giant pole there. I mean,
There's already a pole.
yeah, there's already a giant,
that's
this
already
would just be
there.
putting the antenna on the existing
And
pole.
some
Okay.
There's a
fencing
big
around the base
metal
of it.
pole
Yes.
going up, I don't know, 80,
We will do whatever's legally
So
required.
we did that.
And also
This is-
send a butters list.
nearly a
Okay.
flush room.
Okay.
Okay.
And just, would this be, if it's like a Verizon, is that just for Verizon users, or is there any offer a multi-carrier?
Now you're beyond my
Yeah,
expertise.
because obviously, we don't want to alienate AT&T customers or Verizon customers.
There's an
But that's their
arrangement.
selling point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, usually.
There's an
they're right.
arrangement all the CSPs have with each other.
Yeah, I mean, I just want, more, anyway, it's a question. Well, that'll come out in the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, good.
So what do you need
We
from
hope
us?
that there's multiple and a bidding war.
You don't need anything except kind of voice of consent?
Just to approve this process, us working with council, and then I'll likely be putting together a group that includes one of you to evaluate the bidders.
Okay.
And if we don't like any of them, we just put it out to bid again.
Yeah.
So this isn't a threatening process.
I'd be interested in that. New information. Okay, so you have what you need from us?
Yes.
You don't need an official proclamation or anything? All right. Let's move on. Item number 7, policy
Volunteer.
discussion, volunteer code of conduct. So Gretchen had sent out some information on this.
Yeah.
And I guess the question before us tonight is generally, how do we want to proceed with this? It's a high level, the consideration points at the end of her email.
So this is a task that this board gave us, was to bring you a code of conduct policy. And that's very broad. So what we did was, we went to the insurance provider first to give the template that they give all towns to mitigate risk, which is one of the main reasons for having a code of conduct policy. That, in addition to many like towns, we sent out a request to say, what are your policies? Gretchen put that together, and then she put together a memo with themes.
Yep.
So what we're looking to understand is, I'm assuming that you'll work from the base, what else would you want to add or take away from that policy? And I know that's not a one-night discussion, but we wanted to frame it to you and have you see different versions so that you may or may not add to it. And again, this can be a living document, so this isn't your one time at it, but
Well, I think the comment of, if someone were to violate a code of conduct policy, and at the end of her memo, the last thing she said, unless there's a provision in law for removal of a member from a specific office, that doesn't seem to be an option. So does that mean it's not a policy decision? If we had someone that was in violation where we said, let's remove them, that would require a bylaw? Is that what, or not, that just can't?
elected official.
Or we can't do it, you just can't do it?
What are you talking?
Well, I'm
No,
just,
for a member on a committee that.
member of from a specific office.
depends on the committee.
Okay. But is that something that we could, that's something I'd want to specify that in the policy if that's an option, or I didn't know if that just wasn't even an option.
Okay. We'll have to get you that answer.
Because I think a lot of this, we want to set some standards, but if we have
Yeah.
someone that violates the standards, we would want a clear process to remove that person.
Mhm.
And it,
Yeah, well, as Ryan points out, I mean, it's gotta be a different process for elected officials.
yeah,
Than appointed, right?
Right. You can't remove an elected official except through a recall election.
Right, through an election.
So that's clear, so then there's that.
party time.
Right.
Appointed is the, I guess in the question that you're gonna research, is it the purview of the committee or the like in the case of the select board, we empower the committee and appoint them, right? Is it us or is it?
Or they, mean, like, if
Like
somebody on the
Trails
Trails Committee
Committee.
violated, it would,
Maybe the
Trails
trails do
Committee-
it or does it
yeah,
elevate? I presume
yeah.
it elevates, but I don't know that.
Yeah, I don't know the answers. And then what would the procedure be? That would be a key thing for me. I think the
Right.
code, I think the conduct piece of it,
The code is pretty good.
we could probably
Yeah. Written is
pull
pretty
that,
good.
It is very
yeah, like, I don't
would
think we're looking for anything exotic. I think we just want to get something on
It's
the
pretty
books that we
thorough.
can remind people of. And then we have a process if someone violates it.
You know, I also like this piece in the Monson description that Gretchen included, just if you've gone through the other kind of obvious steps, is you could file a formal complaint as an individual about somebody that you think is violating a code of conduct. And then it could go to the town administrator, or it could go to the town clerk or whatever, but once that's filed, then there's some kind of investigation and a report written about corrective action. So that, I mean, let's say it's a violation, but there's some extenuating circumstances, you don't automatically want to be
Right.
necessarily removing the person.
Right.
Um,
You mostly,
Anyway.
generally want to give, in any situation like this, give people, point it out and give them a chance to correct, right?
Right.
That's true of any
Right.
oversight process.
Unless it's something really egregious, yeah.
See, I thought it was kind of unclear in some of these things, like Douglas, conduct themselves in a professional and dignified manner, refraining from any activity that would reflect negatively on the town and its processes. Well, tonight, we had that all over the place. Everyone, even I was saying, well, this is something you're not doing right,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I'm reflecting on the town negatively. So
Right.
I don't think that's,
I mean, I honestly, the MIAA policy's pretty good, right? There's some very specific things like anti-discrimination. I mean, there's some things where clearly if you've done that, you're gonna run into it.
And I'd rather start from like that as a base.
Yeah, me too,
Yeah.
me
'Cause
too.
it's- And then
Yes.
we can add
Right,
parts as needed.
yeah.
But I think starting with that,
And it says
then we
most
can,
towns, sorry, I didn't mean to-
I'm all
but
set.
most towns use the template designed by
Yeah.
Maya, so,
Right.
and we could see if there's some way in particular, we might want to edit it for Carlisle, but
Right.
that's the base.
Yeah.
So if we were to take that approach, are there any, would you want us to kind of start from that, or are there any specific recommendations that Aubrey would have based on our, like, something that's key to our personnel policy that's not reflected in there that we may want to consider? It would be helpful to know if there's any input from the staff on what should be in there. Or,
So we would not have any recommendations for you unless you wanted to add to this.
okay.
Let me rephrase Scott's question. Aubrey's pretty familiar with procedures where employees may violate a conduct standard, harassment, whatever. Are there any best practices from the employer-employee side that should find their way into this? I realize it's not, directly applicable.
So having one, certainly, and then what is the process, so what is the process for investigating, reporting, and enforcing?
Well, that would be, right,
Mhm.
so that would be a point.
The difficult problem that staff will have with this, and particularly myself, is if the board or committee does not care for my authority,
Mm.
then they would be,
Less than.
like a lot of the findings, if the conscom had something, I would bring it to the conscom and say, here's what we found. Whether they do something with it or not, it is up to them.
Well, isn't the conscom flows up to us then, right?
Correct.
So it's only the elected, I mean, maybe that's not really the right way to look at it. Only the elected, we've agreed that the elected boards, if they find an elected member not conducting him or herself properly, there ain't much they can do. right?
You can still do an
You
investigation.
can investigate, is there censure? Is there-
Yeah, there is, that talks about it in some of these documents,
you
you
can
could
censure.
publicly censure somebody
Put 'em
for
in
poor
stockade.
behavior.
Censure!
Like the legislature does, right, but they can't
Yeah.
remove
wear
the
the-
person.
Right, okay.
If they wear the town logo.
So pretty much every other committee is appointed by us, right?
Well,
Certain MGL Like, once you appoint a conscom member, they're there. You can't yank them. You can not reappoint, but there's certain boards and committees that, once you appoint them, they are.
By law.
Isn't the Historic Commission the same way?
Yeah,
It's
the
called
ones
a
with
commission.
authority, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's to create, some distance between you and them, but.
Well, they're two different, I mean,
But you cannot reappoint them.
most behavior might be annoying and suboptimal and blah, 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 but, at the end of the day, you wait them out. You just don't reappoint them or you don't reelect them. It's when there's clear harassment or some other thing that this is a risk policy, right? So
Right.
when an appointed official or elected official of the town behaves in such an egregious manner that it presents a legal risk to the town or the employees or the citizens, that's where I think there needs to be a good mechanism.
Yes. I was pointing out earlier that it's not, if it's too broad, you're gonna have a problem, I think.
So that's why, when I look at the MIA policy, it's more specific, like,
Yeah.
if you sexually harass, like, that's a thing.
If you speak out against the town, I don't wanna stifle someone's right to speak what they
Right,
want,
be
right?
critical, yeah.
But if there's incidents that you've talked about, it's great risk, of harassment, or I don't know.
Okay, so you have some direction, I guess, too. What's the plan then, to go, more work done, or?
No, this is the work, so.
I mean, I think it's up to us to look at if
Okay,
we
so
want
why
to
don't we
go
look
with
at
the
the-
Maya policy as the framework, are there specific parts of this or something we
Have
want
we
to add?
run this by Tom Harrington, or, they might have ideas about that, right?
We can, but I think he would say that this
Yeah.
template is the standard.
I mean, he's gonna look at it against, does it comply with the law? And yes.
No, but he'll be sensitive to what I just said, right? That you don't want, it should be written in such a way that the town has a way out of getting out of legal trouble. Right? If an employee sues, I guess, the town because she says, I've been harassed by one of your appointed members, there's gotta be a mechanism, right?
Yes, very few, but yes.
So why don't we,
Should we all
individually
yeah.
review it, and then we'll put
Send
this on
comments to Gretchen or something?
or someone, and we can schedule a follow-on discussion with the intention of voting in a code of conduct based on this and
Sure.
any edits.
Sure. What's your time frame, Mr. Chair? Is that this session? You want this done in this?
Yeah, we'll get
legislative
this done,
session?
I think we can get this done by this session, sure.
Okay.
We'll take a look at the agendas and get it on there.
How many meetings
This
left?
doesn't seem like a heavy lift.
Okay.
To at least get the basic policy and.
Yeah, we
can
should at least
evolve
put
it
in
over
the
time.
basic policy.
Yep.
We have no policy presently?
No.
Now, does anti-hate come in under this? Sorry, I know we're not really supposed to be discussing it in detail, but I'm looking
Probably buried in-
anti-harassment and anti-discrimination and then anti-fraud is what Maya talks about for specific policies.
I think hate is probably inside anti-discrimination, I don't know.
But you can add it if you want.
Can add it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, so is that what we want to do,
Yeah,
send
homework.
comments?
Yep.
Homework, okay.
I'll send out an email about this just to remind people,
Okay.
and we'll figure out when it's gonna get on the agenda and give everyone a heads up.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, we're on to the TA report.
All right.
We're 4 minutes ahead of schedule.
Caught up.
You may get out of here.
5 minutes. We'll see how long he takes.
Here's
It's gonna be
my-
more than 10 minutes.
Here's my town administrator report for January 27th, 2026. So this says the TA coffee hour. The next one is going to be at the Gleason Public Library on February 17th. We're moving it to February 18th. That decision was made today. But we'll make sure that that's posted and it'll be in a future TA report to you. February 18th, come to the library. Talk about the renovation or the budget or anything that's coming up. And speaking of the budget and town meeting process, please make sure you're following our municipal newsletter, our email alerts, and podcasts for information. We're up to 30 to 35 potential warrant articles now, so there's going to be a lot of information flowing to people's podcast feeds.
Oh my gosh. 30 to 35.
28 in the consent agenda, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fortunately, no. So for human resources report and appointments, we don't have any appointments to let you know about, but we do have some bittersweet retirement announcements. James Powderly, Our plumbing and gas inspector will retire effective March 31st after 18 years of dedicated service to the town of Carlisle. So if you've done plumbing work in your house, you've at least had James come there and approve your project. Also, Linda Fantasia, and this is not a typo, 39 years of service to the town, will retire effective March 1st. Her decades of commitment and institutional knowledge will leave a significant impact, and the Board of Health will have big shoes to fill. Also, Jim O'Shea, the superintendent of schools, will retire at the end of year after 10 years of service to the Carlisle community. So those are three pretty significant retirements that we're acknowledging, and there'll obviously be more information about that coming up, and some involvement from you as well for those replacement's the wrong word, but for those continuities of service. All right, department updates and information. We have officially certified our free cash. Thank you, Kelly and financial management team, in the amount of $4,676,426. So this is all of prior year funds that are available for appropriation after outstanding obligation and liabilities have been counted. This is the amount they're going to use to set your reserve levels and deal with capital planning and warrant article requests at town meeting, so it is important. It represents about 17% of the current year's budget, so well above reserve, as you know, and something that will be used in becoming part of the budget discussion to come. All right, we did file a CPC project placeholder on your behalf seeking legal fees and support for the investigation of the Article 97 transfer as part of the Bog House project. We've talked about this a little bit. This submission does require your formal approval, so we have a placeholder now. We're asking you to fund a $15,000 request, and this would alleviate pressure on the town's legal budget as we go through the process. So that is up for your consideration now or in the future.
And I see there's a motion in the packet. Do we want to take up the motion now?
Sure. Well, let's do it at the end. Let him get,
Okay.
let's get to the, this would be us requesting it at the CPA? Okay.
Yes, approving the submission of the application.
Not approving this.
It's going to be a lot of Article 97 work. We just wanted to make sure it didn't interfere with the regular legal budget, considering it's CPA eligible.
Yeah, we'll do it at the end.
All right, the Representative Cataldo, who's here tonight, talked about this, but the amended TA bylaw special act was resubmitted with the non-substantive changes you approved. There's no timeline yet, but normally these are approved throughout the spring, summer session, so we hope by August it'll become law here in Carlisle. The budget update. The Finance Committee is done with its series of marathon meetings, and tomorrow they are meeting to discuss and have in-depth conversations about the results of that. This included significant conversations and presentations from the Carlisle Public Schools and the Concord Carlisle Regional High School. None of the numbers changed from the presentation that you got in December, substantially changed. The goal of these discussions is to create a second draft in early to late February, and that'll come back in front of the board for you guys to discuss draft 3, which becomes the town meeting budget, hopefully with consensus. We have a website up on the town administrator's page for all budget information. We've included both school presentations, the latest draft, and any information you need to stay up on the budget. We do not post a change until there is a draft 2 or a draft 3, so we're still on draft 1 right now. Also going to present a quick mid-year report to you at the end of this report that has been sent to you and will be included in this packet. For capital project updates, the town hall bathroom renovation, believe it or not, was going to start tonight, but we didn't want you to have to use a porta potty or something, so we moved it to tomorrow. So it's going to start tomorrow. Water will be shut down tomorrow night, and then it'll return with 2 bathrooms operational throughout the duration of the project, which you expect will be one month or so in duration. Hopefully quicker than that. That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
For CPA project updates, the big one is Cranberry Bog Dam number 1. The Conservation Commission will receive the results of the ground penetrating radar survey at their meeting this week, and then they will either change or proceed with construction based on those findings. Once that's done, the Conscom has already approved the, what are we calling it, Phase 1 dam construction project. They approved that. I met with them last week. They approved it. Thanks to Megan for working with me on that. And that means once this emergency repair is done, we'll bid the Phase 1 project to get that going, and then we'll start Phase 2, which will be informed by the hydrologic studies. Did everyone follow that? Cranberry Bog Dam number 1.
Okay.
3 phases we're working on at once.
A, B, and C.
Okay. Speaking of those hydrologic studies, we're still waiting for them, but they're really important for phase 2, which is coming in the summer. I am working with Julie and the Housing Trust to finalize contracts with GNAP and Niche. We're just going over the details right now. This would allow you to look at a schematic design for that project with the CAHT. That is ongoing. Stephen and I, for Benfield, the keyless entry system, met with the system contractor and completed the final phase of this project, which focused on repairing 3 failed systems. We're still waiting for a part or 2, but then those will be done. They also put stickers on each resident lock system, and we hear from the residents that they're working, they're very functional now. So the last piece of this project is, if available, to add a Wi-Fi component, which would allow NOAA to remote lock and unlock these for residents. But we can consider that project to be substantially complete.
Is there money remaining in the CPA grant that would cover the cost of the Wi-Fi?
We're not-
The remote?
So it doesn't exist yet, so we're not sure.
Ah,
We don't,
okay.
the patch that they're adding to this lock system doesn't exist yet. So
Okay.
we're not sure. There's about 8,000 left, and we don't know.
Okay,
If it's 8,000, I'd be thrilled. And
Yeah.
I'll say yes.
yeah.
All right, library renovation. This is an important update for you. So the total project budget is now estimated at 3.5 million. This includes contingency and soft costs, so the actual construction costs are 2.8 million. To address the funding gap, the library trustees plan to continue fundraising and request CPA funding at annual town meeting. This is per the library trustees. To present the most accurate request possible, they intend to put this project out to bid in March, obtain an estimate, and bring a final number to town meeting for consideration of those CPA dollars. The project is also going to, the scope will include alternates for the library coil replacement and the proposed mechanical room expansion.
So we had a discussion about that last meeting with the CPA funding. Is it CPA's intent to fund the entire gap?
That is under discussion. I think, I would say my sense of the committee, just speaking as an individual, is that they would like to see the fundraising plan for this, if the CPA were to provide funds, something similar to last time where there was a match.
So
Yeah.
it would not. it would-
So, but.
Speaking for yourself, you're saying you'd be less in favor of a fully funding, but rather another match.
I mean, but that's why we're having the library trustees come talk to us at our next meeting more specifically about.
And then
do they see
also,
the ability to
Ryan,
do
I
that?
didn't jump in quickly enough, but you and Julie are working out some things for the Bog House. Is that also a CPA funded thing?
Yes, but from a vote a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
Right.
already in the
That's the
CAHT.
200K or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
already in your,
Right, okay, good.
So it's housing trust money
Yep.
given by the CPC,
Okay, good.
from CPA.
Yep.
A lot of acronyms.
but I
There's
think, I believe there's also a new CPA application coming from
Well,
CAHT.
they had to do it by Feb.
for
1
the-
or something.
Right,
yeah.
for the, what's the next step after you've done, for the design documents,
Yeah.
right? That they would want the town meeting to approve so they can move
Right.
forward in the summer.
In
to
the next
actually-
time, right. I think that's right. So
Right?
why, and the 30K or 15K rather for legal is not tucked into one of those?
No.
It needs its own thing?
Yep.
Because statutorily or financially?
We just think it's better for tracking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, police station renovation, this sounds very, I don't know what it sounds, but it's on schedule and on budget. We're telling you
That
that.
sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What does it
It's a
sound
little-
like?
Well, it just seems like it's kind of a hokey thing to say.
No, that's a, we
Yeah.
like
Oh,
those
that's a
words,
wonderful
Ryan.
thing to
It's on
read.
budget.
You don't
That's
need to
good. Yeah,
explain,
management, right?
Yeah.
Even with all
Exactly
the
what we care
dirty
about.
dirt.
Yeah, so I mean, we're eating into contingency, but not at a pace that we're concerned yet.
Okay, good.
And, there's contingency plans for the water, put the water back into the earth, and for the,
That's where it always goes.
for the basement, a foundation of the garage to mitigate water and soil removal, which is what has been expensive. But your committee is all over this. Everything is to your standard thus far and more, because they're very involved. This is some sections here about upcoming discussions and approvals. Nothing new. I would note that Senator Barrett is coming on March 24th to do what Representative Cataldo did, so your entire delegation is coming before you. By that time, we should know the House budget, so then it times well to talk to the Senate about their version of the budget. For staff recognition, Aubrey recently received her full recertification as a MCPPO official. This is recertification that requires 25 hours from the Inspector General in terms of procurement education. And now she is a full MCPPO, given her time in the field, not just an associate. So that's good news. We now have 3 MCPPO certified officials on staff, 2 primaries, me and Aubrey, and Gretchen as the associate member. And we're also going to be sending, because we can send 1 school person for free, Stephen Canary on the facility side, so that'll give us 4.
Good.
A lot of capacity.
Yeah.
I'd also like to commend Deputy Chief Booth, Sergeant Baxter, Chief Soros, Lieutenant Newman, Kathleen Bond, and Laura Duff, who is our public health nurse, for their outstanding work on the town's interdisciplinary at-risk group. This was established by Chief Amendola and is providing meaningful results for the community. Through close collaboration, members recently worked together to successfully connect an individual with appropriate services and resources that achieved a positive outcome that wouldn't have been possible with just one department acting alone. So more knitting together of departments and working together collaboratively not only saves the town money, but improves services. So thank you to that team for their professionalism and dedication. All right, briefly, because you've seen it, and I'll keep it high level, I would like to go over the mid-year report. So we're expanding the capacity of this report and hoping to provide it quarterly, but this is the half-year report, so this is timely in terms of the budget process. How is the FY26 budget performing, and how are we making sure that we're stewarding your finances correctly?
And this will be available, or is available, on the town website?
Yes, on the budget page under financial monitoring. So besides some explanatory thing, it's pretty simple: red, yellow, green. Red, we're really concerned; yellow, we're monitoring it; and green, we're good to go. Not really concerned. That means there's some action item that needs to be taken. If it's more than red, we'll let you know, but nothing is more than red. So towns have expended at the halfway point 48.22% of the budget, which would return free cash around 500 to 700,000. We don't expect that number to hold. That's a lot, but we do expect there to be some return from the departments of appropriated funds, which is something we design in the budget. The only concerning item that we have is the dispatch department absorbed costs related to IT. So we used to just fix the computers when they need to be fixed, but because of cybersecurity and computer systems, they need to be managed systems. So this added about $3,000 a month to the budget of unanticipated funds, and there'll be some need for a transfer at the end of the year. So they're absorbing all the police and communication costs with this. We have included this in the FY27 budget and briefed the FinCom on it. We do think that they might be able to transfer money within their department or the police department to cover it. So it's not a huge concern, but it is definitely something we need to highlight. Maintenance costs town-wide are something we're monitoring. We do expect an end of the year transfer, but nothing crazy. The reason for that is with the full-time maintenance staff, we're just uncovering more and more deferred maintenance that needs to get done. Not a surprising comment to you. None of the others are of significance, but definitely worth reading. On the revenue side, just some things to fix. We have solar lease revenue that we take in that we're not including in our local receipt estimates. So this is something that you'll hear from the FinCom that we should be increasing our local receipt estimates. This is one of the reasons why.
Sorry, Ryan, but what's the possible level?
25,000.
Okay.
Recycling revenues continue to go down nationwide, so that is eating into our projections of costs.
That's disappointing.
So there goes your 25,000, but it's good that it washes. And then department
Revenue on that one, the revenue's going down because the market is pricing it down, not because we're recycling.
Right, that's what correct.
We're recycling more, actually.
Yeah.
We're just not getting as much for it. And then department revenues, a great example is this select board. If you look at the line-by-line report, you no longer have a liquor license, and that used to be revenue. So none of the revenues add up to much, it's
Are the
money.
newbies gonna have liquor?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Two things that we're monitoring, gas permits seem to be underperforming in terms of our estimates. We're not sure if that's an anomaly or will pick up in the spring, but we're watching it. And the charging stations are currently losing funding.
The ones at the school.
Yeah, not a significant amount, but we're watching it to make sure that we're continuing to provide recommendations there. I give you a pretty good update consistently on your capital and professional service items, so you can review that if you want. The indicators are there, whether the projects are closed or not. There are some long-standing projects that you don't get regular updates on that are interesting, but we do all of the ones that exist in the budget in that report. I think you'll find the building renovation project funds section of this capital piece interesting. It is all the money that has been both allocated and contracts that are awarded, so you can see the balances and the contingencies there. We can dig as deep into this as you want in future reports, so take a look at that and let me know what's useful and what isn't. But that is all the large projects that we have right now, the police station and fire station being the ones that are approved. Chapter 90, here is our current standing. The takeaway here is we believe this is the entirety of the things that you may fund with Chapter 90 based on discussions. The top end of the Audubon Lane discussion we had last time, the top end of the Complete Streets contingency and design. I told you your reserve going into next year was going to be 100,000. It's actually 238,000. So that's with these earmarked here, which.
So walk me through, funds available at the end of the calendar year, and then you're subtracting the next things to get the reserve. You're assuming full, what's that math there in those 4 lines?
So this is what's available from the last year's town meeting warrant article and Chapter 90. This is what you've discussed maybe spending.
Okay.
So we took that out for a reserve of
And
this.
so it leaves you 238.
So 138,000 more than you thought. Still not enough to fund the entirety of the plan without a full 800,000 investment.
So paving and everything has to come out of that.
Plus next year's Chapter 90 and a warrant article. So that'll be in around $1 million if you did the 800,000. CPA projects, this is just the buckets that exist and how much money's in them as of December 31st. And then an update on each project, like you hear from my TA report and the way we reported on capital projects. Just another way to monitor what's going on. And then financial monitoring, this is important. So this is our taking of the financial policies that you passed and telling you how we are doing in terms of the monitoring based off policy. So town reserves, you heard that tonight. We are at 17.41%, well above the 12% high-end marker. Cash reconciliation, this needs to be done within 30 days by policy. We are less than 30 days from the last reconciliation. Sandy and Kelly do a great job of that. And report to me when they do it, and then I review it as well. So we're monitoring cash well. Our internal audit, policy requires that we do 2. Aubrey and Kelly went through the COHS funds in depth and their processes when we switched directors. So that counts as 1, and Kelly will be doing another internal audit before the end of the year. So this is cash receipt and other processes.
So you pick one department to do an audit on, and that becomes your audit?
Yeah, and we're required to do 2.
Internal, yeah.
But I mean, next year you'll pick some other department?
Yes.
It's random, or it's on a schedule, or what?
Right now, it is not random. We're selecting them because we have many to review, but eventually it'll be a random.
Not scheduled, not a rolling schedule.
Right.
And the second audit is the same one as the first, or a different?
Different department.
Right, so you do 2 departments a year?
Yes.
And how many departments are there roughly?
A lot.
15.
Okay, so every 7 years, everybody would get an audit every 7 years, basically.
Ish, yeah.
And why random and not scheduled?
This was a recommendation that we implement, so we're just slowly seeing how it impacts our workload and implementing it. I do think we'll add more than 2 in the future.
Okay.
And which department's gonna be next? Do you know that?
We're not telling them.
Oh.
That way everybody's following the policy.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense.
This was a suggestion from our external auditors.
Yeah.
Department reconciliation, we send out a budget versus actual every month. I look through it to make sure that I'm talking to departments that you would see in this report, and so they're aware of what's going on, and they report back. And then our external audit is almost complete and ready to present to my working group, so that's yellow, but we're on track. And then this part is something for you to review. I'm not gonna go over each line, but these are all of the, as you
The
remember.
green means we're under 50%.
Yes.
In yellow, you're right at 50%.
It's under 50% or where we expect it to be. Like, we pay for the entirety of insurance and on July 1st, so.
Okay, so it's like weighted to,
It can be, yeah.
so basically the reds are just unexpectedly over budget, like you mentioned, communications.
Or under budget.
Red is, there's a concern, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
well, he already said because they had to.
Well, but like wastewater treatment repairs is red.
Right, because they didn't expect it.
Yeah, that's in capital, so in this one,
Says they can skip the expense.
yeah, we can skip it.
That's good.
Red is action taken or needed.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, you're right.
The one
The
I
other one
looked
above,
at,
the
the
one
one red
above,
one I looked at
the one
was like
above.
the.
All right, and then on the revenue side, same thing. So it's just a quick snapshot, and if we do it quarterly, the next one is really telling, so that's when we're gonna start talking about transfers and other items that are necessary.
So you've got a whole bunch there that are red near the end below expectations.
Tiny, though, it's tiny amounts. You gotta work.
Oh, they're tiny, okay.
Revenue.
Yeah, this is one, I put in the report, we need to look, we're looking into this now. Why are our department revenues low? Is it season?
What is select board collect revenue?
It's the liquor that he
That's your
mentioned.
liquor.
Liquor
Oh, the
license.
liquor, that's right. We get the liquor revenue. Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing in this
Library fines.
is we projected to have one marriage,
Under.
and we've done the marriage. So we got the
Yay,
marriage license.
congratulations.
So we met that revenue standard. The big thing, the big takeaway from revenue is we haven't done excise, transfer station stickers, or there's another one that's seasonal. Anyways, the seasonal revenues that make up the majority of our revenue, so we are ahead. Even though we're at 47%, we're well ahead. Motor vehicle exercise is more than $1 million of this, and we haven't taken in any of it yet because it hasn't been charged.
Okay.
Snuck in a whole agenda item there with this last report. That's a tremendous amount of work. We're breezing through it because we don't have time, but it's incredibly valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's meant to
And it
inform you.
reflects the ongoing monitoring that is happening. Good job.
Yeah.
Now you got, since you reserved the bathroom for us tonight.
All right, let's, so review of warrants and minutes. They had circulated an updated minutes around 3:30. I don't know if people had a chance to review that.
I didn't have a chance.
I didn't
But
have a
I'm
chance to review
confident that Christine found.
it. It reflected
It reflected
edits
your
you submitted,
changes.
correct?
Yeah,
So,
It did, yeah.
great, yeah.
yeah, so does someone want to make a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes. I was gonna let somebody else have a turn, but I move to approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2026 Select Board meeting as presented this evening. As presented, as amended this afternoon.
Good enough.
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion, deliberation? Seeing none, let's do I guess a roll call vote because David Modell is no longer present.
You can still do both.
Arnold?
Okay, let's do voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Because we did one.
And
with
one
Christine went out
abstention.
too, so, yeah.
All right, cemetery deeds. We have,
Wait, and don't forget, we have to go back and do the CPA vote too.
oh, yes,
for the
thank you.
Legal fees.
Let's do that right now.
Okay.
Thank you, Barney.
Yeah.
I'm like getting all, I have it right here.
Yeah,
Do you have it?
yeah, is there any reason I shouldn't do this since I'm the chair of the CPC?
Yeah, why don't we, Travis, you want to
Have
read that one?
somebody else do it?
Sure. All right, to move to approve the submission of the Community Preservation Act grant application for legal and administrative fees associated with removal of the Cranberry Bog House and immediately surrounding land from Article 97.
If you want to second that.
I'll second it.
She can, I can't. All right, any further discussion or deliberation? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? David, okay.
And you think the estimate there is 15,000? Is that what I saw? Okay, just for the CPC
All right,
understanding.
cemetery deeds.
Yeah.
We have one motion,
Yeah.
and is it two deeds? 2 signatures. Just for the plots?
Let's see, where is that? Is that at the very end of the
I have it right here if you need
packet?
it. These are all three the same.
I move to transfer land in the public burial ground at the Green Cemetery as described. Deed 866, Lot D 171, graves 1, 2, 3, and 4, to Deborah and Raymond Gonzalez of 19 Bellows Hill Road.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion or deliberation? Seeing none, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, so we both need to sign that. I'll pass that around. And then, you hit that one, Travis? Sure. And then we're on to liaison reports. So I attended the school committee meeting last week where they discussed, I'm losing track of my weeks, and I think that was after we met last, where they discussed Highland Building, and that was reported in the Mosquito. The crux of the discussion basically was, we as a select board had kind of said to the school committee, you know, go figure out a use. This was 2 cycles ago, a year and a half ago. And the thinking there was, at the time, if we're gonna find a valid use, it should really come from the schools, because given the location. They deliberated, they will be voting at their next meeting, based on that deliberation, to likely say, the school does not have a use for the Highland Building. Right. They may have space needs, but they don't see how the Highland Building as being the space that fulfills those needs. What was reported and what was discussed, I don't know where they'll come across in the recommendation. Someone had suggested, should we go a step further and say, if the building wasn't there, what we could use it for, and
What we could use the space for.
what you could use the space for. And there was some discussion about that, and there was some uses identified for that space. Whether or not they include that in their formal recommendation to us, I don't know, but it will be coming back to us by all indication, basically saying the school doesn't have a use for Highland, and then it'll be incumbent on us to say, okay, now what?
And that'll be a this year thing too?
Well, they're gonna have their formal recommendation next month, so I think we'll have to at least lay out a timeline, whether or not we resolve it, but there's no course of action that's not gonna cost money.
Right, no, I know that, but I'm also
Maintain-
thinking of, you just said 30 warrant articles or something, it's.
I don't know that we'll be in a
Yeah,
position to do
we
a
don't.
warrant article. I think we as a select board will discuss it. Whether we have a resolution is probably unlikely.
And then tomorrow is school committee meeting again on,
Tomorrow, school committee is meeting to discuss preschool fees. Also, in their last discussion, they essentially confirmed that they're gonna need, sorry, let me pass this along, the 2 preschool sections.
Yep, right.
I don't know exactly what they're discussing tomorrow.
Aren't
in
they doing
term-
budget or something? They're doing something, right?
Yeah, I know they were discussing preschool fees. FinCom is also meeting tomorrow, and I'm gonna go to that meeting. They're gonna be meeting with the Board of Health again, and also, discussing the budget, so I'll be in attendance for that.
So they have, tuition fees, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Superintendent succession planning.
Yeah, so
We are gonna discuss that.
So one of the things, I think the community was, while there's still some questions in the air, all indications point to needing the extra section, and I think for the parents, it's like I think there's a recognition you need to give people a heads up on what availability is gonna be and the fees, because if they do add a second section, they can also let kids off the wait list.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the minor one. The major one is the succession planning discussion.
Yes.
Right, is anybody attending that? You're not gonna be able to, or you?
I'll attend what I can, and,
Here.
I'm having a meeting tomorrow with Brian and Jim separately.
Okay, so you're on that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
There were only 2 signatures there, right?
Yeah, just 2.
Okay.
The only other thing I'll say, and I've said it, this FinCom is, so I attended the budget meeting, and it relates to CPA, in that, one of the things we're looking at is this idea that the region is taking $250,000 in their E&D budget to offset some cost of the amenities building, which is,
As opposed to using their own CPA? I thought they were gonna fund it.
Well, at Concord's request apparently, but that means we're not truly funding, we wouldn't be truly funding the entirety of the project out of our CPA, because it's using E&D, which is already.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? So we're looking into that more and.
They shouldn't do that. Why are they doing that?
Our share is
Do
higher.
they have the right? I guess they do have the right, because they're.
Anyway, so that, I don't know where that's gonna go, but it's a,
But they're gonna.
Why are they doing
They're gonna pursue that though with,
the wording was they wanna minimize the ask of the town, I think, to have a higher chance of
Yeah,
getting it
but they
approved.
build in this bias. Has that been pointed out to them?
Yeah, we pointed out.
And they like, were, yeah, so what, right?
Well, I think we have leverage in this situation because
Yeah.
we vote second and they need our approval.
Oh, we're not, yeah, I think,
Anyway,
they
it's,
shouldn't do it. It's stupid.
well, and I think they were also, they were also suggesting they would do that for Doug White Field, which is a bigger project in a couple of years, and it's,
They shouldn't be doing that. That's not fair.
right, so.
well, and they
It gets
should
back
have-
to this larger thing of E&D and how, you know, and,
I mean, yes and no. I think what you pointed out just a minute ago, Barney, is the thing. It's overweighting Carlisle's percentage of the capital contribution. If both sides fund it separately, whether you use CPA or other town funds, I don't care. But if both towns do their proportional share, you're
Yeah.
doing your proportional share. Why monkey with that? I don't understand what the motivation, unless they're so heavy on E&D that they're gonna have to give it back. I guess.
that's something.
It seems bad. That seems bad. That seems like something the two select boards have to kind of come together on.
Well, the finance, yeah, it's,
Yeah, I mean, that should be elevated, in my opinion.
yeah,
before
no,
it gets to be a
I've sent that to Ryan and James.
Is there any, speaking of which, I mean, we used to have chairs meetings down there, you know? Is there any?
Chairs meeting down.
in.
We used to go down
Concord,
to
they would-
townhouse once a quarter or
No, I
something,
haven't.
and,
Did you ever have?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, and I went to.
and I went to a bunch of them.
I don't think they're
over
doing
time.
it anymore. or
No,
at
you're
least
not
they've
doing it,
not
but I wonder
invited-
if we ought to be
Yeah.
resuscitating that.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kind of things that can drift out of control, like, do you interface with your select board chair down there?
With my select board chair?
Your
I don't
counterpart,
I don't interface with the select board chair in Concord, no.
I mean, maybe you should.
I don't know how engaged they are with the budget of the schools,
You
though.
know, you gotta raise it. I mean, you gotta raise the thing. It's just like, or the two FinComs. I mean, we're partners in this
Yeah.
$35 million a year thing, right? So I just feel like in the old days, I mean, we did a lot more coordination for that. So.
Yeah.
But our FinCom has been meeting with their FinCom.
They've had some meetings.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's,
Ryan, you talked to the town manager, right? You have a relationship.
And the school administration.
Yeah, well, the administration's fine, I don't know. Anyway, my advice is you ought to think about, maybe not this year, because I know you got a lot going on, but there ought to be a venue. We used to have that venue, it wasn't a big lift, they have their meeting anyway, we just
Yeah.
show up, but it gives an opportunity to
Yep.
start having that dialogue. It's not a big lift, you know, it's once a quarter or something, if that.
okay. Anything else? Liaison reports.
Yeah, so we had a CAHT meeting. I think we're all lined up with the way you said, you know, they're putting their application in. I think the path on Bog House is clear, as Julie outlined in the presentation she gave us here, we gave, but long, right? So the larger picture that John Ballantyne, the chair, is wanting to tee up is, okay, now what? I mean, if that kind of goes on its path, there's a lot of stuff to do, chapter 97, and, you know, all this jazz. And then eventually, presumably, we get a partner, and we can go off and build now 4 units, right? That's the total amount of units. So is there some more, like, we're back to what else can we really do if we want to? And there's not really an answer.
With the Bog House or something?
No, beyond the Bog
Yeah,
House.
I know the
Other
planning board has
housing.
talked about that too, in
Yeah.
the
Yeah, the missing
waning days
middle,
of the
but-
MBTA discussion.
So I don't know where, I mean, John certainly, he wants me to do a couple of things, but anyway, so that's, we haven't really done, I mean, it's taken up, it'll take a lot of time, it's a good thing to do.
Right.
It ticks a lot of boxes in terms of historic preservation and da-da-da, but it doesn't really move the needle much on the primary objective of CAHT, which is provide some housing, right, so.
Do you know if anyone off the CAHT has met with the Concord housing group and discussed what they do yearly? You know, there's a
Yes,
CPA.
right, so that is something, but
Well, to explain it, you know, they have there's an understanding that every year there's a certain amount that is coming out of the CPA funds that is just sort of an automatic vote at town meeting to be given to their housing authority.
But they still
And so
couldn't buy,
they've
we've
built
had this
up-
conversation, but they still couldn't buy land, right? Because it would require a town meeting vote, or they could?
No, no,
Or a
because it's
house.
already been approved. Well, that's how they've done a lot of these projects with Habitat already.
That they already could buy.
Well,
it.
that's why it's
Did
worth
we discuss this
exploring to
last
figure
time?
it out.
Yeah.
Let's take that one offline.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a separate
Sorry.
issue. And my last liaison report is town meeting study committee. We're still we're kind of in the final throes of writing our report and pushing that across the line and being done with that, so. But it was sort of news to them that I told them that we had decided on a Monday, Tuesday. But I explained why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's late in May and,
Yeah.
you know, and then once I explained that, I think it was generally understood that while we like Sundays, that particular late Sunday would
Time
not
of
be a
year,
good
yeah.
use of time. So it sounds like from what you're saying, though, that we might be looking at a 2-day town meeting, right?
Mm. And the warrant closes
Your next meeting,
next meeting.
Oh, wow.
In February?
February 10th.
Right.
It's only 2 weeks
No,
from
no.
now.
I thought we were closing, yeah. Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Anybody
Two
else?
brief ones from my side. I know we're really late. I had the pleasure of attending MMA with some of our town staff. I attended one particular meeting given by the Massachusetts Taxpayer Association's panel and some other folks from State House, and they gave a national outlook and a state revenue trends outlook, and you know, it was very sobering. They are projecting a $1.3 billion federal budget impact in FY26. They said that the Big Beautiful Bill had 105 different tax provisions, 30 to 35 which directly impacted Massachusetts state revenues.
Negatively, I assume.
Negatively, indeed, yes. So they are projecting that we are just going to squeak by. We need to grow revenues by at least 1.2% each year to meet expenses. And because all of our growth, our population growth, has all been from international immigration for quite some time, and all of the various hits from the budget, the federal budget, we are just barely going to make that. And so the net is that we are more negatively positioned for a downturn than we would like. So we're just barely going to make the budget, but no new discretionary. So that was the digest from MMA. And then also our town safety committee continues to do great work. They fielded a request from Sylvia that I think we might be putting on one of our upcoming agendas. I'm not sure. And then they had welcomed a new member. We've already heard about the library. I think that's my report for tonight.
Any other thing? Otherwise, we can adjourn?
Well,
Hey.
can I ask a quick question on the calendar? Are we?
Oh, yeah, I'm
Do we
sorry.
have a Benfield?
Thank you again.
Okay.
You're saving me. Benfield, we have 4 potential dates for a visit. February 17th, 18th,
24, 25.
24th, 25th. The week of the 17th is school vacation week for anyone that has,
So this is a morning thing, right?
this would be a, morning, afternoon? It would be a day thing.
Yeah, either morning or early afternoon.
We don't have a specific time, but I'm likely out the week of the 17th,
Okay, so that's a
So the
vacation.
following week, what were the two options?
24th or 25th.
24th or 25th,
Not wild about the
24th, we have a meeting, right?
that night,
Yes, we do.
yeah.
I'm not wild about the 24th because I have to take care of my mom the day before. I can't predict.
Yep.
What about the 25th?
25th?
25th is okay with me.
Yes, what time?
What time works is, I think we should tell them. Do people prefer afternoon or morning?
I think morning would be helpful because you'll see more light-wise.
Yep.
It goes late in the afternoon.
point.
Actually, it's getting lighter in February.
I don't care.
But also, Yeah, I don't know if,
Maybe we
there's a
want to-
part of it that's gonna include meeting with residents, right?
Yeah.
They get up that early?
Yeah, I think it's
Like
better probably
10?
morning than it
Yeah,
is
they're
later
morning.
you
10?
get in
I
the
would have
day.
said earlier than
9?
Oh,
that.
10, you're not talking like 8 then, you're talking.
I don't know.
No,
I
We're not
was
talking
thinking-
anything.
I was thinking, yeah.
10:30, 11?
Oh.
No, you're thinking like
I was-
8.
I was thinking 8:30 or 9.
Yeah, I really don't care.
People-
Why don't
You
we?
tell me, I'll be there.
Can people
It's
make
fine.
9 work? Why don't we just pick a 9?
You should ask the residents.
Yeah, we'll ask them and,
Yeah.
do people have a little bit of wiggle room?
I do.
yeah.
I have
Okay.
wiggle room.
I'll
So
just
let's-
put, I'll put a placeholder in my.
What is it, the
25th.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
so
it'll
then
be
if you-
AM, we'll negotiate, our starting position will be 9, and then we'll go from there.
It's probably 2 hours, you think, or not that long?
What do you think for timing? An hour?
Hour.
and a-
30-minute tour, 30-minute Q&A.
Okay.
All right,
Great.
I'll go 8:45 to 10:15.
Oh, you're hedging.
Well, no, because I gotta get there and come back, so I gotta block.
Oh. Okay.
Right.
Okay, good. So dog hearing's off, I heard, right?
It is.
Yay.
Well done,
Nobel Peace, well,
yeah.
Okay, so we're truly not meeting again till the 10th, then, right?
that's correct.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Cool.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Community input.
Oh, gosh, man, I'm like flying out of here. Is there any community input out there?
Dave?
See-
Yeah, I
Seeing,
see Dave's on there.
okay.
Okay.
Seeing none, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.